Hey man,
Hello?
what's up?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good. So just so you know, we are live right now. So we just started the stream.
I will minimize the trash talk then. Freaking plebes.
That's good, man. That's good. So, yeah, I guess we can get right into it. I I added the I up I upped the volume and I just added those score sheets so we can just record the scores of each player after the game, but it might take a little while.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Okay, well, let's get into this first game then. Are you ready?
100%.
Okay, so this is group 20 from week 2 in the CPL, so we're just going to start casting right now. And it's me, Royal Blue, and Bahram as the co-caster.
Hello.
Okay, so we got Fear Chaos, looking like the brown Protoss in the bottom right. And then we got Floadriblere. I think that's how you
We
say
got
it.
flow. We
Flow.
got flow.
Flow is a great way to put it. And I think Flo was actually on my DRTL team a long time ago. So I remember seeing his Terran before.
Your what team?
Yeah, it was another league that we did for kind of lower level players. This was like at least 2 years ago. So that's how long I've been a lower level player. But I remember we played on the same team and I think we did pretty good. I forget exactly our record.
What tier are you again? Before you do that self depreciation, I'm a bad player thing.
Yeah, I'm tier 1 right now. I was tier 1 last season too.
So you're saying you're talking about being a lower level player to a tier three right here. Is that what we're doing right?
No, no. I just mean I've been in these kind of leagues for a while, so I'm seeing familiar faces, which I'm happy about
Absolutely. Good to have retention in the game.
for sure. And actually, I believe this Fear Chaos. No, never mind. I want to say I've seen him before, but I don't think I have.
I haven't either, but I mean, it's Protoss.
Yeah.
I'm always rooting for Protoss a little bit in
Really?
my heart.
Okay, well, I root for Terran, so that evens it out.
I'm just saying, you chose the wrong side if you think it's Terran.
Yeah, I chose the losing side most of the time, I think. But
Banks was a monster, and it's weird that you support him, but I get it.
so we have
All right.
the normal gas timing from the Terran, so it looks like he's going to go for some kind of factory expand. And the same can be said for the Protoss, it looks like he's going for some kind of Dragoon expand. He's already built his gateway
Yeah,
and cybernetics.
yeah, you always do this kind of opening with Protoss if you're not doing a really aggressive cheese. You need to get the Cyber Core out right away, start building Dragoons, and get range as soon as you can, or tech up. You always have to open that way because there's really no reason not.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you're doing some kind of like Zealot play, just rushing for this first Dragoon and getting range is the best way to play as Protoss, especially against Terran. And it looks like the players have scouted each other first, so we're seeing a little bit of harass with that first probe, and now it's being chased out by the first Marine, and that factory is going down for flow. And it looks like he's still mining gas, so we'll see if he decides to do some kind of one base tech build or if he tries to expand here. The
I
continued
mean, it
mining of
might be
gas,
a
yeah.
double factory build with
Yeah, that's what
that
it
has
shows.
gas.
And it looks like there is two gateways going down for the Protoss. So he must have been aware of some kind of double factory potential.
Yeah, I didn't really get the catch that the probe was still in there after the first hunter was mined. Maybe a particular time he knows that if you don't start pulling guys off the gas,
Hmm.
that you should expect more tech heavy play.
And the SCV is actually still inside the Protoss base, but that probe is being denied from entering the Terran base for the second time now by the Marines at the front.
This is a really cute little thing to do with the SCV. Because you're not actually walking around a main, maybe your opponent will forget about it. That way you can walk and see a tech at a more crucial time. Like, it's not about seeing gateways, it's about seeing did they go robotics, did they go Templar, or can I see like a giant swell of gateways? But now he's like going in now to see if there's some kind of choice that's
Hmm. And this is actually an interesting opening where he's built his two gateways and his nexus before building any dragoons, so he really had nothing to chase that SCV with. But now he's getting his two dragoons around the same time that range finishes. So I've seen this before as like some kind of SKT expand for the Protoss. I think Bisu used to do it, but it's not something you see all the time. But I think you get two dragoons around the same time as you normally would, so it definitely is a effective opening. It just looks like a two gate initially.
it's getting your macro set up for after you get the base because it's you making the judge that you're not going to get hit with a two factory push that you don't need to use immediately. So just get the production ready, get the
Hmm.
expansion up a little earlier, and then the unit production will catch right back up because you have the two gateways so quick.
Yeah, and we see that Flo has used his gas, it looks like, to build a starport, and we'll see if he goes immediately for dropship. That's what it looks like here. He's doing an FD push with maybe a dropship from behind, but right now he's just pushing out with his first tank and 5 Marines. He's managed to push back the Dragoons, but with those two gateways, there should be a sizable Dragoon force out here pretty soon. So Flo is mining
Yeah,
and slowly pushing with his tanks and that first vulture, which gets
I mean
taken out
you made a
now.
right call about that dropship that's on the way. And you see that they're laying Spider-Man just trying to slow the Dragoons. If they can keep baiting the Dragoons to stay on the map, a drop could actually do a tremendous amount of damage.
Yeah, I think you're correct about that. It's going to be imperative that he gets his Dragoons back into a defensive position and doesn't get cut off with mines here. We'll see what he decides to load into this dropship, which is now finished.
I am a little bit surprised because you figure if you're doing this kind of fast drop play, if you're going to go for an early upgrade, you might go for Vulture Speed just to get that extra harass, really open up the potential to be aggressive.
While he is now getting it, I think it is good to go for mines because there's no observer out just quite yet. Now the observatory is finished, but if he can lay some mines inside the Protoss base and kind of pin those initial Dragoons down the ramp, I think that could be very helpful as far as this harass. There is already 8 Dragoons out, and he is responding to this drop, so let's see if he's able to get those mines down. Right now, the Vultures are not laying the mines.
That was a very surprising though. He dropped the vultures in the main. It made
Yeah.
the decision to not do it in the natural,
Ooh,
but
and
then
that dropship gets taken
the
out.
vultures were just hitting the gateways. They weren't going straight for the mineral line.
Yeah, I think he needed to lay mines as quickly as he could. He may have been a little bit taxed on his multitasking, and now the Dragoons are able to get back out to the front and shut down this FD. So this is a really good play for Chaos that he's able to hold off this initial harass and even possibly do a counterattack here, as Flo is just now setting up his expansion, and he really only has mines to
Oh,
protect him, which this Dragoon Observer force is really well designed to just destroy any mines that are on the map.
yeah. I mean, so when you said that it was an FD, you kind of pushed, but he already had the expansion. So I thought you're supposed to make an aggressive play and then get the expansion behind it. But if you're waiting until after the expansion, that force looked kind of weak for the time of the attack action.
I think he did expand after that FD push. Wow, and the Dragoons are just walking in here right on the tanks, and it looks like the Protoss can just end this game right here if he decides to focus fire on those tanks. There really isn't enough that Terran has out on the map because he did go for that fast starport and the later expansion. So we'll see if siege mode can finish and he can siege on top of his ramp to try to hold off these Dragoons. It looks like it does finish, so he is able to push back those Dragoons, but he's going to lose, it looks like, this bunker. He needs to cancel it, and this racks as well, this barracks that's trying to float away.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah,
is able to
actually
hold
losing the
on so
barracks
far.
here is kind of a key thing because if you lose the barracks, you have to rebuild it before you can keep building more factories. That can
Yeah,
definitely slow down your.
yeah. He is able to repair it, looks like, and some Dragoons are being picked off here, but he's getting behind the mineral line, and those tanks are too far away. So he needs to maybe try to siege a tank on his ramp, even, or just closer to these
He is
Dragoons.
moving forward to do that. I just think he has to be careful because you don't want to be in a spot that you're going to go, all right, screw it, and they go.
Exactly, and it looks like he is being very aggressive with these Dragoons, but Mass Repair is going down on this tank, and it's actually surviving. Wow, I think it was down to 2 HP, but it survived Wow, this is great defense from the Terran. So this is the strength of Terran and siege tanks, that he's hauled off a considerable number of Dragoons just with a few tanks in good position and his SCVs repairing everything. But it looks like behind this, Fear of Chaos is taking his third base, and he's added on a number of gateways that he's all the way up to. It looks like 7 gateways with speed finishing for his zealots. So he'll be able to follow this up with another strong attack if he so chooses, while Flo is still setting up that command center at his natural, which has not landed yet. So his economy is pretty low right now. It's only on one base that he's really mining from. But he is finishing
Yeah.
up an armory in his base, so hopefully he can get those upgrades started.
Yeah, I like the decisions Fear Chaos has been making. He took that third, but he didn't take the easy mineral only. He went for the greedier gas expansion, realizing he has a big control of the map right now.
Yeah, definitely. That map control that he has is very important because these vultures can't even get out of the base. They're just getting pushed back by this Dragoon force that's camping outside of his natural.
I think there's a very real fear of this zealot attack with the speed going in. There's not a lot of mines to dissuade this.
Ooh. And he
Just
does
clearing
manage
them
to
out
hit
to
one
the
of the few
observer.
mines out there, but there is a good grip of zealots that is moving in on the Terran forces right now and getting right on those tanks. Luckily, the SCVs are being pulled, and there is some vultures to try to hold them off, but there's just so many zealots right now. More vultures are coming in
Yeah,
from the top, so it looks like he will be able to hold this off, but he has lost a number of tanks. Pretty much all the tanks that were on the low ground have been taken out. And again, he's
I think
retreating here
maybe
to
if you
the
had a
mineral
couple
line.
more tanks at the high ground, this attack would have been a lot harder to go into. But if you only see the one hitting, especially since zealots do take the half damage from the shot, it's like you might as well just walk in because there's just not enough to really say that's not worth.
I agree, and this engineering bait to wall could be effective against any kind of additional zealot pressure, and even landing that Rax would have been helpful, I believe. But it looks like the vultures are now getting around and doing a run by, and he's adding up to 5 factories, so he should have a, enough production. It's just gonna be, can he slow down this third or do any harassment, because he is behind on bases now with the Protoss.
Yeah, and you see the Protoss going into a pretty standard mid game for this kind of map. You get that three base going, especially if you have three bases all with gas. You go right into an arbiter. That way you can keep moving around and force the Terror to not be in one comfortable entrenched. I'm just liking everything Fearcast is doing right here. Very, it's nothing surprising and nothing like overly cute, but it's just very solid play, good decision making.
I agree. It's kind of a brute force style of Protoss, that he has just a lot of gateways and a lot of units out on the map, which is helping him be so aggressive in this game.
I mean, this is the kind of thing of how you usually have to play this kind of matchup. You need to keep the pressure on, keep these tank numbers down. Even if you're trading units into it, if you have more bases, you don't mind trading into it a little bit. I do wish you would take that fourth base, which looks like he's about to set up to at the mineral, but just so you can keep forcing into the attacks, keeping their army contained in its lower numbers until you get that next step of tech online, which would be the arbiters.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way to play Protoss, is to just stay ahead on bases so you can just send in wave after wave into the Terran's forces. So it looks like he is establishing his fourth at that mineral only.
Yeah. So as far as the position that we got the Terran in right now, do you think this is the kind of thing that he should be aggressive trying to take a third, or is he be gearing up for some kind of push? The fact that his early game got so delayed, it's hard for me to tell what angle he should be going. Planning for the super late game or trying to get something to get a little bit of this advantage.
Yeah, it depends on how he'll want to play. He did add on to 5 factories before taking his third, so it looks like he is going to have a later third. Personally, I think, yeah, waiting until that late game and getting his upgrades would be the best way to get back into this game. But he has not even started his third command center. He is able to do some harassment with these vultures, but with no real push coming yet, it's going to be hard for him to do any kind of pressure to this Protoss, who's already on 4 bases. So he
Yeah,
is going to need to
the
take an
one thing I'm
expansion.
Yeah, the one thing I'm seeing right now from the pros, he has a very considerable gas bank, and even though he is going to arbiters and getting stasis online preparing that he's getting ready for a mid game push rather than having recall. He wants the stasis to deal with the tanks. I don't see any Storm. I don't see any High Templars. And considering the resources he has available, I feel like that's something he could have invested in and be really having a very scary push right now.
Yeah, I think he's throwing down a second Stargate, but we see a drop coming out from the Terran. He's got two siege tanks and he's dropping them on the fourth, so he might be trying to take out this pylon so his vultures can get in there. He does have a number of vultures that are moving down from that. Oh wow, and they can just walk right through that wall, so he doesn't even need to take out that pylon. The vultures have just got into the mineral line. Now he's pulling them back because he knows there's a big Protoss army that's flanking around from the top. But his siege tanks are in a decent position here. It's just way too much Protoss, which is the unfortunate thing for these vultures and these tanks that looks like they're all going to get cleaned up fairly easily by this big mass of Dragoons and a few Zealots.
Yeah, I would have loved if the Terran player actually like moved in with this kind of push, maybe without the tank drop, and actually dropped somewhere else, forcing the Protoss to actually split up his army instead of having one giant powerful.
Yeah, I agree that multitask could have been effective here. It was nice that he was able to get some probe kills, but yeah, losing that whole force is kind of
Yeah, I don't
unfortunate.
think that what he got done for how much he lost. Maybe if he got out with the vultures, with them being speedy, I think he could have ran away. Just not realizing that maybe this is the time to retreat. Just accept that the tanks are dead.
Hmm.
And staying the fight there, he lost a little more punch than he should have. You can even see looking around with his unit count. He's got this one group of vultures, but it's not even really in position. I think a strong attack to the front right now. There's nothing to buffer between the units and the tanks.
Well, he does have a number of mines out here, which the Protoss has not yet cleared, and he is going in with his vultures down to the bottom, which has allowed him to set up his third base. So this kind of counterattacking with vultures can buy him some time. I think that's what he's hoping for. He is just getting so far behind on supply right now that it will be difficult to end up fighting this Protoss army head to head or even really moving into the late game here. And yeah, the Protoss is moving forward like you suggested here. And he does have some minefields to deal with, but he should be able to clear those up with his Dragoons and Observers.
Well, especially if you look at that Arbiter, it's got a lot of energy saved up. He can do a recall if he chooses, or he can do a stasis to take out about half the tanks if he gets a good one landed. I think there's a very real threat that if he keeps being too aggressive with these vultures and showing, oh, you're behind on bases, half your army is not here, I can just kill you.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like Flo is a little too low on his bases to be trading these vultures the way he is, but he does take out two cannons here at this, I guess we'll call it the mineral only for the Protoss. And so he's able to force the probes to pull there. So he is getting some damage done, but unfortunately, I just don't think it's enough for him to come back in this game or get a macro advantage here.
Yeah, I will say the good thing about these little attacks that if it made the Protoss be a little indecisive about wanting to attack, it did buy him two to complete the +2 weapon upgrade.
Definitely, and he has mines all surrounding this Protoss army, which is pretty impressive here. But here we see the Protoss going for a recall right on where that armory, starport, and science facility are located. So this is a pretty
There's
devastating
nothing
blow
here to
here.
stop it.
Yeah, there really isn't. So that
Hey, if
recall
you think
just,
about how far he already is behind, if he loses his production ability, I don't even know how he gets back in this game at this point.
yeah.
This might just be the killing blow.
And like you mentioned, those upgrades were really the best thing he had going for him. So now losing that armory so quickly to stop his 3+ attack uh, definitely hurts Terran.
These are the kind of situations I always have that like dream of like if he just brought a second arbiter and stasis the ramp, like
Yeah,
like these
well,
little
that's
like
the
super
Protoss
high
dream,
plays that are
right?
never gonna.
Let's play the most abusive way possible.
I don't know what you're talking about, but this is the kind of thing like he dragged the entire army out of position to go back to the main to defend his
True.
buildings,
Hmm.
but he's not being active with the army on the map, pushing into that mineral third. I think on any of these kind of attacks where it's like to actually respond, you have to move your army, you have to unentrench. You should
Well,
be combining
yeah,
it with a.
I agree 100%. That would be the ideal. Now he has pulled the Terran forces into the main, and he did try to clear some mines, but he ended up losing a lot of zealots. But that would have been a great timing for him to attack the mineral only third, like you mentioned. If he could have pulled off that multitask, that I think would have pretty much ended the game there. But as it is, Flo is able to hold off, and his minefield did delay the Protoss enough that he's able to get his units back into position.
I'm expecting a big push coming out of the Protoss soon because you see he's getting back up near max. That's a very reasonable strategy to do. Is that if you're near max, you realize, oh, I got a big supply lead. You build the zealots, you throw them in, they'll take out some stuff, and you just remax. You already see the bank starting to build. But the fact that he's not really aggressively taking a bunch of other expansions, only now starting the fifth, not going into carry tech, I think this might just start being the waves crashing against the front.
Yeah, well, we can see there's two arbiters here in the top left, and even a third going to join them. So he might try for one of those Doom recalls and using stasis like you were calling for before. And now we see some vultures that are just dying here to this Dragoon force, which is just so large in the middle of the map. The entire Protoss army is just grouped together. And it looks like he's going to go for a big recall. We'll see what he determines to do.
It definitely feels like he's setting up for recall because he has his units not only grouped up in one spot, but they're as tightly grouped as possible. So
Hmm.
it does seem like he's planning for some kind of big recall play moving forward.
Meanwhile,
I just wish I would see the Protoss use his advantage a little bit more. He's being very passive in
I
situations that I
agree.
think
He
he
could
could
have
be
taken
putting
the whole
more pressure.
bottom left of the map at this point. But we see Flo has taken or has built his fourth command center, so now he should be able to float it over and take that gas expansion. And he's laid a bunch of mines in his main now to prepare for any kind of recall, and actually placed a lot of tanks around the cliff, hoping that he can defend against a recall if it is going to be in that same position. But Fear Chaos is just playing very defensive right now, and he's not getting ahead of himself. Like you said, he's not really taking so many expansions.
Yeah, I would just love to see a plan that utilizes. He's at this max army. He's got this giant bank. I wish there was like a step to say I got this giant advantage and I'm making something of it. But it
Ooh,
seems
so
like
there's
he's
a recall,
trying.
but it was right on the mine, so all those Dragoons just died almost instantly. Wow, that recall was very ineffective. That was amazing. So great defense there from Flo to hold off that recall because he knows he's in a disadvantaged position, but he's able to play defense there as Terran and again hold on for this game and take out another group of Protoss forces. Unfortunately, the Protoss basically just remaxed after losing that recall, so we know the Protoss has a bunch of production and he's able to just instantly remax after he's lost a group of units. So the Terran really needs to keep playing defensive, hopefully get more upgrades, and he can try to slowly expand across this top left to try to, you know, force his way back into this game.
Yeah, I think if nothing else right now, like if you're not going to be trying to do a killing blow or really put the pressure on, I think the pros armor should be postured near that 12 o'clock just to stop that fourth base from happening. There wasn't really anything established there, and if you can just delay that for a lot longer, let your sixth base get up, let the economy really roll out of these new expansions in the left.
Yeah, I agree. Now that these supply depots are getting up to wall, it will be difficult for the Protoss to get in there. But if he had been in that position before with some dragoons, which he had like one dragoon and a few zealots, but like a whole group of dragoons could have really slowed this down and forced the Terran to, slowly siege his tanks one at a time and try to push those dragoons out.
I mean, even stuff like if the army has to go to the 12 to really secure it, that opens up the arbiter play. It's a little easier to defend against this stuff if it's the only threat happening. If you're not poking from one side to set up the other. Like
True.
it's just this kind of he's not being brute force throwing zealot after zealot after zealot and just kind of whittling down the resources, and he's not being like tricky to divert attention from different spots. It just seems like he's got a lot of money, comfortable sitting back, but
Yeah.
any Protoss should know don't let the Terran just get to +3, get to max.
So here's another
The,
recall going into the main from actually the bottom, and he just flew right past that science vessel. I would like to see more turrets here. Oh wow, he must have just got EMP'd because now he cannot do a recall, but he has 50 HP. I don't know what just happened there. And
Yeah,
now
I
that
don't
Arbiter gets
see a
taken out.
science vessel with the ability to EMP in that area from when he lost it. I wonder if he tried to recall while he was flying over unbuildable terrain or
Yeah,
something.
that might have just been what happened. Now, there's a science vessel next to the engineering bay on the bottom right. You think it doesn't have the ability to EMP? Oh, what a stasis. So now he's blocked all these tanks off. That was a good play that he
That's
was able to
that's
block the
good
ramp.
and bad though, because now he's funneled into a single
Well,
bridge.
now he cannot push for sure, but it seems like he wasn't even trying to push. And now the Terrans got these four bases that are pretty easy to take on this map, and he is maxing out. Hopefully, he can add in a bunch more turrets, especially over his natural, so he can delay any kind of recalls or even take out the arbiters. But he has had decent recall defense so far after losing that first armory. I don't know where
Yeah,
he
I
replaced his
just
armory.
don't
Oh, the
like. I
net.
think the Pros has been in a very good position most of his game, but how passive he's being, unless you have 1,000 gateways ready to go, like if you lose a big chunk of your army without trading effectively back, that you could so easily do against an EMP and a giant siege tank force or something,
Letting the
you
Terran
can
get
easily
maxed.
die with a ton of money left in the bank. You just don't have the
Yes,
production.
I agree. He's adding on a lot of gates in the bottom left, but letting the Terran get maxed is always dangerous as a Protoss player. And so now he's cleared out these tanks and vultures that did uh, go down that narrow ramp. So
They
really,
have a pretty good stasis that you cut down the
indeed,
siege tank for.
really as the Terran, you should be pushing down that cliff and down that big ramp. Pushing across these two narrow ramps is just not going to work for your army. And that's what we saw there, that really this ramp is just not an effective place to, or these two bridges is not an effective place to push across, especially once you get maxed or near maxed. So he really needs to go up and go around that ramp, the big ramp, and then he'll be able to siege up from the high ground and slowly push down and try to cut off the main from the rest of the Protoss expansions. But he has forced out a vulture group, and he's kind of making the Protoss run around and chase him. Like you said, keeping the Protoss somewhat on the defensive instead of uh,
Yeah,
being
yeah, I
attacked
think he
himself.
he bought enough time to get to that +3 upgrade to get near max to get the army he wants. Not
Yeah.
having as much in the bank doesn't really matter if the army is super powerful like the late game mech Terran army is.
Well, he's going to have to take a really good engage, and he does need to bring all of his army together here. He is pushing somewhat across the ramp, but somewhat across the bridge, but he's bought time with these vultures going past, and he's taking out some probes. Let's see, here's the engage. He's sieging up now. He does a scan, but he needs a science vessel with this army. Wow, and a
That's a
big
beautiful
stasis.
stasis.
Yeah.
It's a huge map.
And there's just so many dragoons here, not enough tanks really from the Terran player. Look at this dragoon mass. This might be 48 dragoons he's got here, and he's just destroying everything the Terran has pushed out. And now these tanks are just going to get camped. So we'll see what
Yeah,
happens
but
with
I
these
mean,
tanks once they
this is
get out
a
of stasis.
yeah, this is another situation though. He just took a big fight, and he got these stasis tanks that won't be able to do anything for a while. He's not doing anything with the advantage, not forcing an attack on the fourth base, not trying to get a recall on the production, just taking a little advantage, then being overly passive, maybe too cautious, not throw away the game. But that's an easy way to lose the game in itself, is just not taking the advantage when it's handed to you.
Yeah, I agree. He is playing a little passive here, and maybe could have ended the game already, but the recall defense from Flo in general has been pretty good, so maybe that's why he's playing so passive. But with the economic advantage he has, he should be able to take a lot of bases and just brute force his way. There's the good game from Flo. He's realizing he can't really move out onto the map with any success, and he just calls it right there.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did fight and try to stay in that game. And I thought that might have been a game that could have changed because you saw the Protoss somehow was actually still behind on upgrades by a significant amount despite the economy lead. Never really got into Templars, never went to a carrier or any kind of force, just stayed on Zealots and Dragoons and just being like, I got enough money to make this work. And he did, but I think that was closer than it needed to be for sure.
Well, it was very safe play from the Protoss. He was never really too threatened. But if he had gotten a bad engage there, yeah, it could have definitely swung on him.
Yeah, and you even actually notice a trend that that the Protoss did start playing differently after the recall went really poorly into the mines, and then that second one just fizzled out for reasons still kind of unknown. Like he stopped doing recalls, never really tried to hit the fourth or any of this kind of other stuff. He was just like, okay, this move not working out that great. I'm just gonna put units on the map in the middle and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, he was able to play really good defense and take enough bases, so that's how he got the win there. So I've recorded one win there for Fear Chaos against Flow. And here we're watching another game of Flow, who again is spawning in the top right against BRu.Quad, or yeah, BRu.Quad, who's the brown Zerg spawning in the top left.
I always get a little bit worried if I'm watching this map with the Zerg in it because this map is super good for Zerg with the way the bases are laid out,
Hmm.
how easy it could be to defend things with lurkers, how easy it is to get up to that 4 or 5 gas base that he's looking for to really go into that high tech late game that gets out of control.
Yeah, there's just so many bases here, and even a good amount of gas bases that if he just expands straight down in a line, he can take up to what is it, 5 gases there, which is pretty much unstoppable if once Azure gets that big of a macro going. But I've played with this BRu.Quad before. I think he was on my team last season, um, and he is a pretty good player. But I think he went for very aggressive builds. So let's see what he decides to do in this game. If he does go for something very aggressive, or if he does take those 5 bases or even up to 4 gases and play a more conservative high tech game as Zerg.
I mean, I will say I think being aggressive here can definitely suit it, especially I think setting up an early lurker contains good on this map with all the bridges around. I think
Hmm.
doing some kind of big mutalist play because there's a lot of open area, especially in the middle of the map, so it's hard to move a big marine medic kind of group around. No like bridges that you can macro around, but nowhere for them to escape to from a link flank. So I think you could definitely be aggressive or be passive. I think this is a very flexible map that kind of opens up every kind of build, and that's why it's a fan favorite.
Hmm. So here we see it was actually a very fast scouting SCV that scouted the correct position of the Zerg, and he's already placed an engineering bay in the natural of the Zerg, so he's unable to take that expansion when he would want to. So he's gone straight for the spawning pool, and he's taking a hatch in his main. So he's got 2 hatcheries, but he's not able to take the expansion just yet. So this kind of interesting play from Flo. It's pretty aggressive, but it seems to be working out that he's delayed the Zerg a big deal on taking his natural.
I think it does depend on what the follow up's going to be. You have to be prepared that if they're going to be down a base and be on maybe a decent amount of minerals, but lower gas, especially, the lurkers might be coming. But realistically, you got to expect a decent amount of circlings. And he didn't wall in front of the ramp. He doesn't have a bunker prepared up. So I wonder if there's going to be a big lane attack to follow this up that might do significant damage.
Yeah, I agree. The Lings could just run past this engineering bay even and run into Flo's base, who only has 1 Marine out on the map right now, but hopefully he
Yeah, I
can.
mean, he does have to make links to kill the eBay anyway, so it's not like you're not going to see them.
Yeah,
But it's
so
just he's going to get the choice on how he wants to handle next step. And you see, the SUV is not really trying to go into main and scout what's going on, not see if it's a fast flare, how much gas has been mined, not really getting the information he really needs.
well, he does see that there's 6 Lings out, and that I think he's seen that the Zerg is taking his expansion there in the natural. So if these Lings decide to be aggressive, they might be able to get there, but there is a bunker coming up for Flo, and he's got a number of Marines now. He's got 2, he's getting a third, so he should be safe from this 6 Lings. Oh, and there's the drone finally scouting Flo's position, and it gets taken out there by the Marines.
Yeah, I mean, you see our Zerg player going into that lair basically the moment that SCV died. So I am thinking he might actually be preparing for some kind of lurker push. Being on that one gas for so long, Muta might be a little more difficult, but you can definitely get enough together to get a Hydra, get the lurker den going. We'll see if he puts down a Hydra den soon to signal that, though.
Hmm. Yeah, he does have that lair tech going. We'll have to see his gas timings. Ooh, some Marines coming out to try to lure the Zerglings. And he is luring them back to the bunker and then retreating. and only taking minimal damage. So this is kind of a nice micro move if you have the APM to do it. And he's taking he's taking his natural expansion. He has his gas and he's getting that engineering bay. He is actually continuing to mine gas. Um, and it looks like he's going to start that +1. Yeah, so he's starting the +1. He's adding on a rack. So we're going to see one of those +1 upgrade on attack. And then we'll see how many racks he decides to go for. Wow, he's clearing out these Zerglings pretty effectively here. Oh, there he finally loses a Marine. But that was a pretty nice play that he's killed all 6 of those Lings that were camping outside of his base.
Yeah.
And there we see the
So
Spire
on
go
the
down for the Zerg player, even
yeah,
though he hasn't taken
he
that
was
second
actually
gas.
delaying the spire. He was delaying the spire for a pretty significant margin. I think hoping to kill that scouting SCV before
Ooh,
he showed his
okay.
hand. But then he put it in that middle hatchery to dodge a scan later. But since he never killed the SCV walks by, sees exactly what's
Uh,
going on.
and now the SCV is returning even, but there's 4 Lings that should be able to stop this SCV from moving up the ramp if he responds in time. Yes. So that SCV gets taken out. So he's not able to scout anymore. And look, there's a bunch of Lings now coming out on the map. So we'll see if he's going to be aggressive here with these Lings that he's building.
I mean, everything from the Terran side to me signals he's got the academy up, he's getting stim, he's getting +1. I think he's just going to slam down 3 more racks right now and go into that 5 racks mid game you see so commonly.
Yeah, so here's a group of Lings. It looks like maybe 12 Lings which are moving in, but there's already a bunker, a medic out, and looks like 8 Marines. So he should be able to hold any kind of aggression here from Quad that could come out at this timing. And he is adding on a bunch of racks like you were calling for. So he should be safe as far as reinforcing and holding off against any kind of Ling aggression at this time. But the Mutalisk will come out pretty soon, so he has to stay on top of that and make sure he hits his scans and builds that missile turret.
I actually don't see the Mutalisk in production. He's got plenty of supply open, but not enough to use all the gas. He's building more overlords than he needs. This is actually delaying the timing a lot, and I think Terran kind of getting away. The turrets seem a little bit too late, but since there wasn't the immediate Mutalisk production, I think he's getting away with it.
Yeah, I hear some scans going down. Maybe he's scanning the hatcheries to see the amount of larva that's being used and seeing that there isn't really, 3 eggs at each hatch, so he knows he can wait a little bit on those turrets. And
Yeah,
he
it
is
looked
doing a
like there
slight
was a
push out.
scan at the mineral third for the Zerg, but not the other mains.
Oh,
Really
really?
looking more for what kind of attack the Zerg is prepping up, realizing that he has to be doing something soon. I put him in a bad position with that eBay block, with seeing his situation with that SCV that I was in all the way until the Spire was started.
Yeah, we do see a very minimal amount of turrets still for Flow, but he's moving out with his Marine and medics as well as 1 fire bat. So hopefully he's thinking he can intercept these mutas as they fly into his base.
I mean, Quad is waiting for the full group of mutas, although as I said, he's moving out with 7, with 4 more in production. I thought I was waiting for that full 11 control group, which allows your micro to pick off Marines so effectively.
Ooh, and now Quad's going in and engaging this force. He's lost all his Marines very quickly, and now the mutas are just getting ripped apart. Oh no, there's only a few Mutalisks left. Only 2
Yeah,
left, and a third.
not yeah,
Okay.
not having the muta micro to actually support that attack, and not waiting for that full group of 11 to get a real control group, just kind of getting things picked off literally seconds before it would be so much more potent and deadly if he just waited a little bit more.
Yeah, and these 4 racks are continuing to pump out Marines for the Terran, and once he gets a sizable army, if there's no lurkers out on the map, he can just go ahead and end the game by moving into the natural. And we see the
Yeah,
Zerg is
I even
continuing to
see he's
pump
not adding
mutas.
extra sunkens. He's not getting ready for this attack at all.
Yeah, and there's the scan from Flo, so he may just decide he can just end this game right now and decide to move in.
Yeah, you hate to see this kind of thing happen, but this is a big part of why all the Zerg builds, they're never just like do this and it's fine. There's a lot of, you gotta scout, you gotta react, see if they're making units, you gotta have links to spot the move out. It's a very reactive race. You need to know what's going on, otherwise you're guessing blind and hoping.
And there's the GG from Quad. He didn't have enough lurkers or sunkens to really stop that, and once he lost his first group of mutas and lings, there was nothing he could really do to hold on in that game. So there we have a win for Flo.
Yeah, it was surprising that when he did lose the group of lanes and those 7 mute on the middle of the map, that he didn't immediately go, I'm under a very real threat right now, and just slam down a bunch of sunkens and get ready for some kind of counter.
Yeah, unfortunately, even adding the sunkens, they can just bring in a bunch of siege tanks then and take out the sunkens. But it didn't look like that's what Flo was going for. So maybe the sunkens could have bought Quad some time to get back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you can produce the amount of Marines from that situation to make a deadly force, there's no way you have all these upgrades and all these barracks when also having siege tanks. There has to be something cut from the build. You can't just have everything all the time. Which, I mean, I think that's an important thing, especially for lower level players to realize that if your opponent is having like, oh my god, he has 1,000 Marines, how do I deal with this? Well, that means he hasn't tacked. He has a ton of barracks. Like you can't just have everything. You don't have enough money to have everything.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make choices.
Yeah, that's a good point. Seeing the amount of Marines he had, could have understood that it was a later factory timing. But still, once you get contained on those two bases, there's really not a lot of counterplay for the Zerg. If siege tanks are brought to your main as well and you don't have defilers, you just lose basically.
Yeah,
And
it
it doesn't
was.
matter
I
how
think
late
it
the
was.
factory is, really, as long as it's before defiler come out.
Yeah, I think it all stems from that eBay block maybe being a weird twist that he's like, I haven't played against this before, and not really knowing how to adapt.
Yeah, that
Which I'm
eBay
pretty,
block.
to my knowledge, when you get that eBay block on your natural, you take a different third base, and then your natural becomes your third.
Yeah, I think that's how you would play versus Protoss. I don't mind the way he responded. I think he just maybe over went into Lings after he lost his first 6 Lings, and there really wasn't a timing to do any kind of aggression. And then that really delayed his Mutalis, like you said, so he didn't even really get any harassment going with his Mutalis. And then
That's
his
very
lurkers were
possible.
late from that, so it just kind of spiraled from that way, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's an important lesson. Just if you get deviated from your plan, you still know what the plan is. Just unless you have like a clear, oh, they did this, and I have this adaptation that I've practiced before, it might just be worth going into a your plan, but maybe a little later, and you're still on your path. You still know the steps you want.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, Arcneon, we had to kick you out there. Arcneon's a clan member. He's actually very good at this game,
He,
but I
he's
asked him to
just so
leave.
excited. He's so excited to watch.
Yeah. I doubt he's watching this game, but maybe. So we're going to start into game number 3 here.
Why would you doubt that he's watching this game? This is exciting,
I don't
hot
know.
CPL action.
He's a very good Protoss. I don't think he'd want to watch his ZVZ, but yeah, you never know.
Hey, I gotta say, out of the mirrors, ZVZ to me is the most fun for me to watch as a spectator. I love watching how visceral it is, where it's like, oh, they got 2 more light. Oh, they killed a drone. Like you get to celebrate every little edge because
I
there's
agree.
so few resources.
It is a very, let's say edge of your seats type matchup where any kind of advantage they can eke out, whether it's Ling micro or micro mutas against Scourge or whatever it happens to be, uh, it makes it very close, very tense these games. So let's see what we got here. I've got Sunshine in the top right, and then we've got again BRu.Quad in the bottom left, or I'm sorry, in the bottom right as the orange Zerg.
Yeah, I'm excited to see because this out of like these kind of mirrors, you always think there's build order victories, but ZVZ has actual very literal build order victories.
Hmm.
Especially if you are risky enough to go for a 12 hatch, you could very quickly. It looks like Quad is going for a 9 pool though, or an overpool, I should
No,
say.
that looks like
Very,
I've got
very,
Sunshine.
very safe.
Huh.
No, BRu.Quad is the orange one down in the
Oh,
corner.
okay. I'm looking at I've got Sunshine who's already put down his spawning pool and he's getting an extractor. So it looks like maybe speed lings. it looks like 8 supply,
Yeah,
but maybe that's a
yeah.
9 pool.
Sunshine looks like he went for a 9 pool
Hmm.
speed, while Quad went for overpool. So Quad's gonna have a little bit of an economy advantage. But a big thing with this, it's not about having a big mineral economy. Gas is king. You need that layer. You need to get the spire. You need zergling speed. Gas is what really enables you to have real plays.
Yeah, 100%. And so Sunshine does have the faster gas, so we'll see if he looks like he's going to go for speed here, like you mentioned, and we'll see what Quad does to kind of defend that. He does have a bigger economy, and he's throwing down an extra hatch in his base, so he should have more production than Sunshine to pump out lings, but he's just got none on the map right now. His Overlord does scout these lings moving out, so he sees that 6 lings are headed for his base, and he's building, it looks like 6 himself, so he should be able to try to defend this. Hopefully these lings will pop out by the time Sunshine reaches his base with his lings.
Yeah, the big key thing we're looking for Quad is if you can get his legs popped out and guarding the ramp. Because if you have to attack uphill into a concave, that's very difficult to actually break through, and you can overwhelm a very significant Zergling disadvantage with superior position. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can see Quad trying to set that up, that concave at the ramp, that perfect, you're not surrounding my stuff.
exactly. That's what we see here. So here's where it gets intense with the Zergling positioning. They're positioning each Zergling as perfectly as they can to try to defend this ramp. And hold on, here's 8 lings coming up though. But it is a nice concave for the defending Zerg quad. And he's reinforcing, but it looks like he got overwhelmed there, and it's now 4 against 2.
Yeah, just a little bit short, but he's about to stop to have that second
Ooh,
hatchery
so
and have
one
the extra
drone goes
production.
down.
He just can't afford to lose this many.
2 drones, it looks like 3 drones just died there. And so each of these drone losses is very critical.
Yeah, I mean, so despite the fact that it is a critical amount of damage he's done, the drone count is very similar between the two players because he did make all these links. He was a little greedier with his unit production, so losing a couple, but still being about even.
Yeah, it does look very even here. Ooh, another drone. Maybe, no, not getting picked off there.
And a big thing I'm seeing right now, even though it is just the one hatchery play, you see Sunshine already working on that spire and getting a creep colony in his main to stop the counterattacks. He can keep the pressure on while Quad it might just be in a really bad position with no way to defend against.
Yeah, Quad has not started his lair yet, and I mean his
He's
spire.
yeah,
My mistake
yeah.
there. But he will need maybe some Evo chamber or something if his mutas are so much later. There's the spire going down for Quad.
An Evo chamber it would be his only thing, but you can't afford to invest the money. You can see how low he is, losing another drone for an Evo chamber, then having to build a creep colony. Like it sounds like very cheap, minimal things when you think the other matchups, but in ZBZ, 75 minerals for this, you're out of your mind. That's expensive as hell.
Hmm. Look at this manner for Sunshine. Oh, he's trying to get up the ramp, but his gas is very badly mannered by his own sunken, unfortunately, or a spawning pool, it looks like. Did you
Oh,
see
that is
that?
unfortunate.
That's
That is
very unlucky right
unfortunate.
there. He does have the 3 guys on gas, though, compared to. Oh, it looks like 2 guys on gas for Quad.
Now, Quad putting the third one back in now and realizing that he is going to have that
Wow, so
spire up soon.
3
It,
mutas just popping now for Sunshine.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a big problem. He's got 2 more on the way. He's gonna have a even though there's more production from Quad, he's not gonna be able to make the same amount of numbers. So when the Spire finishes, he's gonna have to make Scourge to have any realistic chance of staying up.
And he's already supply blocked right now. So he's gonna need this Overlord to pop before he can even start producing those Scourge.
He's losing a second Overlord though, out by his natural.
This is going from bad to worse for Quad right now. Hopefully he can hang on, but it looks like his drone line is just unprotected right now. There's 1 Mutalist Scout, but it has no chance against those 3. Maybe he's trying to lure it away. There's the GG from Quad, so that's how fast it can end in ZVZ. As soon as you get Mutalist out, if the timing is a little off, that's game.
Yeah, just showing that little bit of advantage. He had 6 links to the other guy's 8. He had a one less drone, mining gas a little less soon. Just little tiny things, and they expand so fast and make a really significant advantage. I mean, if we're talking if it's a late game ZVZ, it's like 40 to 40 food, so you can't be afford to wasting things on a bad decision. Even once or twice is enough then.
All right,
And if you don't like mirrors, ZVZ's fast. It's over.
it's
Look how
over.
fast that.
Yeah, it's quickly over at least. Dude, I'm trying to add one win for Sunshine. It's taking a while here. Okay, so we got Sunshine with a win, Flow with a win, and Fear Chaos with a win. So now we're moving into game number 4, it looks like.
I really liked Sunshine's build in that ZVZ. He definitely seemed to have a very standard looking build ready. Like he's doing a 9 pool speed, very aware of what's going on. Maybe that might be giving him an advantage with some of these CPL games where people maybe not doing super optimized stuff or kind of doing it a little. I'm gonna do my style. I'm gonna wing it a little bit. Like he was looked by the book.
Yeah, that was pretty much a by the book ZVZ, I would say. And here we have a PVZ with Fear Chaos spawning in the bottom right as the yellow Protoss, and Sunshine spawning in the top right as the blue Zerg.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he's bringing to this. I've got that hope that he's going to do another very standard build, just because that's something I think a lot of these CPL players should be doing, especially if you're trying to just learn and improve. Just copy the most standard, basic, non-cheesy thing and play the normal game. Get the reps on something that you know works, so you can't say I lost because the build's bad. No, it's not. All the pros do that build. It's definitely good. You just didn't do it well enough.
Mm-hmm. And there's something to knowing all the variations of a build too, and knowing how to alter it in your game. But definitely starting out with that game plan to play, a certain way or a standard style can be very effective to starting out learning the game.
Absolutely. And you see, even Sunshine, even now, looking like he's doing super standard stuff, went for Overpool, the safe opening in this matchup, because you just don't know what Pro is going to do. You're not being overly greedy with the 12 hatch. You're not trying to force damage with a 9 pool. So that's why I think Overpool is the way to go in this matchup for Zerg. And he's just showing that he's going to be willing to play the standard game. And I love seeing that. And we got that Forge expand from the Protoss player. Another very safe way, just saying, let's get out of the early game. I want to get my 2 bases up and go into a normal thing. I appreciate every time I see lower level players
Ooh.
in CPL just not doing something crazy.
Well, he did just lose his scouting probe there at the natural to 2 drones from the Zerg, so that's a little bit unfortunate. He didn't get off a pylon block if that's what he was looking to do.
He
Um,
actually almost killed the drone that was making the hatchery. He
oh,
only had
okay.
6 health left. So that's what he was going for. So Sunshine pulling that second drone, making
Really
sure
helped,
even if
yeah.
he does kill the drone, he can still get the hatchery down by killing the probe with the second.
Hmm.
And you see immediately Chaos throwing out a second probe because with the like I said with the that Forge expand, you need to have scouting knowledge. How many links did they make? How fast they get their pool? You don't know how greedy you can be with this Forge expand build if you don't have the knowledge. So getting that probe scout and keeping it alive as long as you can, hopefully until Corsairs pop, is super.
Yeah, and there's another scouting probe going down at the mineral only third location for the Zerg, so he's losing a large amount of probes actually for this early in the game for the Protoss, but at least he's seeing the expansion timing somewhat. And now we see 2 Zerglings entering into the natural for the Protoss, but they see the cannon, they see the forge in the gateway, and they decide correctly to pull back, and they're chasing another probe scout from this Protoss.
Yeah, if you keep the micro up until he gets that Zergling speed, if you can force him to take it, you can get as much knowledge as you want with this probe. You just gotta keep paying attention and not let it die to these links.
Yeah, we'll have to see how good the multitask is, but Yeah. Oh, the probe taking some damage, but yeah, with those shields, with the speed being relatively the same, this probe could survive a long time. It does need to survive for a while just to try to scout out where the Zerg is going next with his tech. There it sees the lair timing, but it's taking additional damage. It only has 7 HP left.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he can keep it alive just to see what's going on, but he at least get some knowledge just from how the game's already going for the Zerg. He took the third hatchery at the mineral
Mm.
only. He didn't take it at a gas base, and he didn't put it in base. So there might be some things you can signal from that. If you can get that probe back to the natural seed, did he take his second gas yet? I already saw the lair in the way, but when is he taking that second gas? Little tiny signals like that can help you determine exactly what the opponent wants to go for.
Yeah, I agree. What kind of prediction do you think he can make from the information he's gotten here about this layer timing, the mineral only being taken as the third from the Zerg, and yeah, no gas at the natural just yet.
The the big thing I always think if I see a mineral only expand from the Zerg instead of trying to get a gas, Hydras don't cost a lot of gas, but they
Mm-hmm.
cost a lot of minerals.
That's what I
And
was
that's a
thinking
very
as well.
common thing to punish a forge expand. You go into a big Hydra mid game with range where the cannons won't be able to hit it, and once you break down the wall, then you flood in.
So it looks like he's throwing
Now you
down.
see
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say you see that there's a spire on the way, and there's also a Stargate from the Protoss player. So the Corsair will get updated information soon enough about what's going on. Now it's gonna be very dependent on what he actually does with the spire. If he starts getting it ready for Muta, with him taking that second gas, I'm actually thinking it might be Mutas and not just getting it just for the script. Although we do see going up to five hatcheries, and like I said, without taking that third gas, it might just be a big five hatch Hydra push. He's going to be very dependent on what he's doing. Here's a Hydra Den now. Think he's going to be going into that big aggressive. But the probe is going to scout the crap out of it. I can't believe that probe got in the main.
Yeah, I went right by those Zerglings at the narrow ramp. That was very lucky for the Protoss. But yeah, now he's getting in the main. He sees exactly what the Zerg is going for. So we'll see how he decides to counter it. He is adding a cannon now at his natural. And he even added a cannon in his main to try to chase off this Overlord. He's getting a Citadel. And he still has that probe alive in the Zerg base. So he's
and
sent out, it
the
looks like
Protoss would
4
not.
probes now just to scout what this Zerg's doing. So that's really, I guess I should say, safe play from the Protoss, and he knows scouting is very critical.
Yeah, you can see that he has a Corsair production on the way. He's getting his +1 air weapons, seeing the Spire and respecting the Muta presence. But you see from the production tab with the Zerg player, he's getting the Hydra upgrades, the +1 missile
Ooh.
attack, has no intention of making Mutalisks.
Oh, and one Scourge goes off on that Corsair, but another Scourge is just chasing it. The Corsair should be able to get away here. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, wow. The Corsair dies there at the natural. Unfortunately,
Usually, if
just
you
as it was getting
yeah,
taken out.
yeah, usually if you fly in a straight line, they don't catch you. But there is a little micro tricks you can do to throw the Scourge AI off,
I
and
wonder
then
if,
they
yeah.
take a step back.
Do
And so he might
Corsairs
have tried to do them, but
decelerate?
didn't do it.
Is that what it was,
It's
maybe?
like you can turn in a certain way where the AI, the Scourge, hooks back a little bit, and that buys you some time.
Yeah, I mean,
So there's
like
like
maybe
certain
it
ways
was
you can turn.
slowing down because it was he had just clicked it onto the cannon. I don't know how that Corsair got caught.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you move to exactly. If he maybe clicked right by the cans, he would start decelerating before he get there or
Hmm.
something. But I like both players playing going into this mid game. We got the standard. I want to get a bunch of hydras, and he's getting that overlord speed, so he doesn't lose
Ooh,
overlords to
okay.
all the Corsair production happening. And you see the Protoss player getting his weapons, getting Zealot legs, getting Storm, getting ready to defend against this kind of Templar play.
Yeah, he's got +1 and he's got speed, so he's sending out a group. It looks like 7 zealots over to the third mineral only for the Zerg player Sunshine, and let's see how he responds to this. Looks like he's just going to try to snipe that sunken as quickly as possible, but there is so many Hydras out on the map. Those zealots are forced pretty much instantly to retreat.
To me, they just paid for themselves in gold seeing all those Hydras, though. That is like clearly setting up for the kind of push he's doing. If there was a group of mutalisks on the field and they just haven't shown themselves yet, you can't afford nearly that many Hydras.
So he knows exactly what's going on. That this Zerg is just massing Hydralisks. Now he's adding on cannons at his natural. He's adding gateways, and he's hoping he can defend against this big push of Hydralisks that he knows is coming now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this, if you can defend against this attack, the economies are pretty similar from the two players. Being one base behind against a Zerg is not so bad
Oh,
for
look at this
Protoss.
DT in there.
Yeah, this DT is getting.
Oh, it's gonna get massacred though, but it's getting some kills right now. Ooh, and there it goes. Hey man, he did his best out there for Ire.
I still think that was very okay, and you see that he's the Protoss player getting Dragoon range. He already finished the robotics. Hopefully, he goes into Observer Tech soon because he's gonna need it. See that lurker's on the
Let's
way.
see, there's a
But you
storm
see
that
how
goes
strong
down.
this push is.
Yeah, this is a lot of Hydras. He does have a decent amount of cannons, but oh wow, look at those storms. Wow, the Hydra just melted there. Damn. That was impressive
Absolutely.
defense there from the Protoss.
Gotta be very careful with your Hydra positioning. Now, something I think that could have happened here that would have been really problematic for the Protoss if he killed that bottom pylon. I think that unpowers some of the cannons and also stops the forge upgrade.
Yeah, I think you're right. That would have been a good move to just try to snipe this wall. He tried to just bust in there, but the storms have really pushed him back. He's adding more Hydras though. He's keeping this attack going. Oh, there he does snipe it, and he does unpower that forge while +2 is almost finished.
And he did
Another pylon
unpower
going
three
down.
of the cannons.
Yeah, 3 cannons unpowered. That's brutal. And now he's gonna lose the forge that was almost done with the upgrade. This is going very poorly now for the Protoss. We'll see if his gateway's production is able to kick in and he can hold this attack off. There goes the pylon, but there's still one cannon that's unpowered, unfortunately.
I mean, the cannons being unpowered is not really so much the problem, but the big thing that you see is that the he still hasn't gotten that observatory yet. So if he finishes that lurk upgrade, which has finished a little while ago, and actually makes some of them, these zealots they're never going to be able to walk into these hydras. It's just going to be hydras versus cannons and storm. Finally starting the observatory. Zerg being patient, buying some time, but I do like Zerg's position. Has a nice solid contain to keep this Protoss on two bases while he takes a fourth of the 12.
Yeah, and he's getting some lurkers now, so it's a good thing that observatory is on the way, because it looks like the
Yeah,
Zerg will move into some kind of a contain here. But we see a shuttle moving out with a DT in it, so uh, the
yeah. I'm actually
Protoss
kind of curious
realizing,
because
yeah,
if you look at the bottom left, the Protoss did actually start a third, and I have no idea when a probe got out there.
yeah, I think it was down at the bottom left 6 o'clock base, trying to scout out, similar to what that Corsair was doing in case a drop was coming or something. But now he snuck it over to that bottom left base and is taking expansion. I don't know how he plans to defend it. He's just hoping it doesn't get scouted, I guess.
I mean, I don't see why it would be scouted. This is a very interesting thing Sunshine is doing. He's going to take that top left, which sounds good, but he's bringing a pretty significant force to do it. And I don't know why he would assume units.
Yeah, maybe he was expecting some kind of ninja expansion like there is going down the bottom left, but I agree. I don't know why he's doing this unless he's worried that there's a DT there. And the Protoss trying to move out.
But the yeah, he went there before the Overlord, so that wouldn't really do much against a DT. That'd be more against a Zealot or something.
Hmm. And
Although I gotta say, today is a fantastic StarCraft day. We see Zerg going for start. Oh, he's going for transportation on the Overlords. He's getting drops,
hmm.
and this is the third or fourth game today I've seen with Zerg drops. It's ridiculous. When did this get popular? And I don't want it to be popular. I don't want to deal with this
Really, I
crap.
think it's a great play. You can just stay on that layer and get it. And we see this
These
contain
lurkers
is
doing
being
so
very
much work.
powerful. Yeah, and the observer gets sniped there, unfortunately for the Protoss. But he is adding on a lot of Dragoons, so hopefully he can bust out of this contain here.
I mean, you still have to be careful because if you go too heavy on Dragoons but don't have the other units to back it up, all the Zerg units are good against Dragoons. They need some kind of wall of Zealots or Archons, something to absorb the damage while they dish it out because Dragoons by itself just does not win a fight against Hydras.
I agree.
Or
He's
against,
going very heavy on Dragoons now. I think Dragoons are good against Lurkers and maybe Ultras as well, but the Hydra Ling composition that's coming out now from the Zerg is pretty strong against Dragoons, like you were saying.
yeah, if he has to get that group that's in the middle of the map forward, if Protoss jumped forward now, then that half the army is not there. It's going to be some of the situations we've seen in games before where you're just losing little chunks of army you don't need to lose just
So
because
here's
of
the
some bad.
DT heading into the top left. Just got sniped by that force with the Overlord, so it did do its job. We see some storms going down at the natural for the Protoss. He's trying to push out against this expansion. There's his observer, which cannot get sniped here. It's very important it does not die. He's getting some storms off. He's killed pretty much all the lurkers now, and he's going to be able to move past this bridge, and he's got to pull these overlords. There's a lot of overlords outside, which could just easily get mowed down by these goons if he doesn't pull them.
I mean, I don't care about the overlords right now. The supply was pretty in a normal spot for this game, but after losing that contain, Fear Chaos gained like a 30 supply advantage compared to where it was before. This is the time to push out.
Ooh,
You
look
have a
at this.
couple of
So there's some lurkers that have been dropped in the main. It looks like they've got, wow. Do you see how many kills they have? They've got 36
that's
kills, or
so
no, 26 kills
uh,
between them. My mistake there. But that's a
oh
lot of
gosh.
kills. It looks like they were probably all probes as well.
Yeah, which and Fear Chaos still has a supply advantage. So this shows how scary this army he has on map might actually be.
True, he's sending some zealots back to deal with these lurkers, and he's pushing across the map with all of his dragoons. He's managed to transfer some probes over to his hidden base in the bottom left. We'll see if the Zerg has enough to hold on against this massive army that is moving across the map, though.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at the Zerg bases, there's not a lot of sunkens. There's not a lot of lurkers. There's not really any defense. He was kind of saying if you can't break out, we're fine. But once the contain gets stopped, there's so much storm ready on these Templar. He has the energy upgrade. One of them's actually completely maxed out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and
This
there's a
this
great
attack could
storm.
do a tremendous amount of damage.
Yeah, he's killing this uh, Zerg army pretty easily now and moving into the mineral only. If he can continue reinforcing this army, it will be very effective. I don't think these lurkers have been cleaned up yet. This one even has 23 kills now.
Yeah,
But
but he's also like he's not moving lurkers to like stop production or anything. So you're not mining from the main. That's fine. I'm just gonna kill a couple bases. I think that's an okay trade, especially given that the main is basically mined out. Why even save it at that point? As long
mhm.
as he's not killing production, it doesn't matter.
It just may be that the Zerg is on too many bases and able to whittle down this Protoss army. We'll see if he's able to continue reinforcing it.
And you do see that giant group of dragoons. Even though there's not a lot of support, he is flooding and reinforcements with archons, with zealots, not more dragoons, stuff to bolster that army he
Mhm.
has, so he can keep pushing into whatever base he wants to attack.
And now he's pushing across those narrow bridges and really being driven back now from the Zerg, who has a very dangerous amount of units, it looks like. The
But he hit
Protoss will do
another
well
very
not to
good
get his army
storm.
trapped here. It looks like he might just get trapped. Uh,
He does. The Templar he has still have capability to storm these Hydras. So
yeah,
as
he
long
is
as
getting
he gets
some
some
nice
good storms
storms
off, which he
off.
is hitting some very good ones.
Unfortunately, his army is just getting whittled down here and has now been destroyed. So the Zerg able to hold on here with that nice drop and some good patience to finally be able to take out that Protoss army, only losing his mineral only. He's now looking like he wants to set up another contain or possibly counterattack into this Protoss mineral only. Unfortunately, the Protoss has already expanded to the bottom left and is taking the natural down there at the bottom left, which the Zerg is, I think, completely in the dark about. So that's going to be a problem for him as this game goes on.
He is, but if you actually look around the Protoss economy situation, the main isn't mining at all. The natural literally just ran out,
Hmm.
so he's basically on right now one effective mining base, while the Zerg is on four and already in high.
Yeah, and it just looks like a bunch of zealots now, and he does not have a lot of minerals coming in. Like you mentioned, only that one base. So it looks like holding off that one attack for the Zerg has put him in a very good position with a lot of his bases still remaining out there on the map.
Yeah, this is going to be a very difficult game. You see a giant clump of lurkers being made right by this zealot army. If you're saying my zealots got to get the job done, there no amount of zealots will get through that many lurkers.
Yeah, that contain of so many lurkers is going to be able to hold off all these zealots.
I'm very curious to see what Chaos has in play to move forward. Because really, the only thing that's keeping him in this game is these hidden bases, which it Zerg even considers. Oh yeah, that's a thing. He just sends some lings around and sees them. Like, there's no way he's going to be able to stop a strong push in.
Mm-hmm. The Protoss really needs to try to go around these lurkers. Going across these narrow bridges with his zealots is just not going to work. And he's realizing that and pulling back, but it seems like he just keeps kind of banging his head into the wall here.
I think it's less that he's trying to fight these lurkers head on and make sure they don't cross the bridge themselves.
Okay.
Because if the lurkers run up to that mineral base, there's not going to be much they can do. But there is already the one lurker there with 12 kills. These are
Oh
some
wow, I see that
fantastic
lurker
lurker
now.
plays.
Wow, these lurker plays have been brutal for the Protoss, definitely. He just does not have a lot of
Mm.
probes left on the map, it looks like. He is mining now from that bottom left natural though, so that should be some assistance to him as far as
Yeah,
income.
but you figure at some point Zerg should realize I'm in a pretty good spot. I've killed so many workers. He still hasn't quit. Why hasn't he quit? And that should be
Hmm.
the time to tell you I should scout for more bases.
Yeah.
Although you do see Sunshine planning for that killing blow, getting his defilers. He's already got the den done. He's researching consume, getting more upgrades for the ground units. He's ready to go for I'm going to make that play. Your cannons will do nothing. I see this pro fighter just being super annoying. That like one DT stopping that next
Hmm.
expansion.
Ooh,
There's
and
all
it gets
sorts
the
of little
probe.
stuff.
Yeah.
Super good to keep trying to stay in this game. Just I'm. This is a testament to if you're ahead and you're in a good spot, scout for bases. You never know what you're gonna find.
Yeah, I agree. Especially as Zerg, it shouldn't be too hard to send, let's say, a Zergling or an Overlord, just to try to get that map vision. Oh wow, so he's taken out all the observers here, and he's got his lurkers behind, but the Protoss is just pushing forward now. Hopefully he
Yeah, but
doesn't
you
get
see these
surrounded here.
Templars
There's so
are.
many lings moving in. The Templar are kind of exposed. There's not a lot of Zealots left over now. He needs to start making Archons, it looks like.
I mean, once you get into that position where Zerg has switched and they're ahead on supply, you know the situation is getting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really just not sure how much longer this Protoss player is going to hold on. He's still trying. Very admirable fighting spirit, great honorable player, choosing the right race for the job.
Yeah, look at all these links now streaming across the map, and it looks like they're heading right for this mineral only. Protoss trying to expand to that 6 o'clock base. It looks like it won't get set up though, especially if he can't hold on to this mineral only.
I see the brutal killing blow ready to happen. If it doesn't happen beforehand, you see Plague just about to be done being researched.
Wow, look at
The
these
Plague
links
against
coming in,
Protoss armors
destroying
is so good.
everything though. There's nothing that can stop them now. There's
Absolutely.
so many links. This is brutal. This is like Zerg at his finest right here. So many links. Some Archons being made. Let's see if they can hold him off. He does still have those bases completely unscouted in the bottom left. But he needs a lot of Archons, I think, to hold off. Wow, that was a pretty nice storm. He's able to
I
kill a
mean that
number of these links.
you're gaining small things, but it's just I don't see the way out, especially now that the fires are on the field and near these pro spaces. The end should be near, and I like that
Ooh.
Zerg is playing a very controlled game, closing this out in a way that's not going to throw the game that he might not. like lose to some big giant storm. He's being very cautious about how he's using his.
Yeah, he's done a good job of keeping his macro up. It looks like he has no drones though in the top left. I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was some harassment again. So he's mining from effectively two bases now, which is pretty even with the Protoss actually.
I mean, the Zerg economy is different than the other races. You shouldn't see giant saturated bases. Like they just don't need the same amount of mineral income that the other races do. So
He has
you will see
produced a
less
bunch of
drones around.
drones now. At both 12 o'clock. Oh, and here he is. He's got a play going. He's moving in on those Archons. There is 4 Archons out, which is a pretty sizable number.
Archons are definitely a good tool to fight against defilers
Ooh,
because
but
the
now he's
Darkstorm
chasing
doesn't
them
really
into
do
those
anything.
lurkers. Yeah,
Yeah, the
Archons are
Darkstorm does
amazing,
anything, and the
especially
Plague
late
doesn't really
game.
either.
Yeah.
I mean, the Plague does what, all 7 damage, pretty much.
Yeah, this is just such a small army. Somehow the supply is still pretty even, though.
I mean, even in this matchup is a very favored for Zerg position. Like the Pro should be a notable amount of army ahead.
hmm
But you see the Zerg, they're swarming, they're taking all the bases on the top side of the map. Like, just using their advantage to keep getting more ahead, not try to do some big desperation attack that can go wrong.
He's,
Playing a very
yeah.
slow game, which I'm super.
He's got to be like, how is this guy remaxing or rebuilding such an army when he's only on these bases that are pretty much mined out at this point? He's got to be surprised by this, but yeah, again, is not really scouting the bottom left, which is kind of surprising. You should assume that he knows
Yeah.
about it at this point.
This is one of those games when you watch a replay, you go, oops, oops,
Oh, that's why
oops.
he stayed in, yeah. He must be like, how are all these zealots being built? He's mined out.
Yeah, he should know for sure. Like he still has the Overlord at the main. He knows the main's not being mined.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting here. He's totally got the Protoss boxed into this corner, though. He's trying to bust out here. The Zerg units are pretty clumped up.
Yeah.
Oh, but now they're just converging on this Protoss army, and it's forced to retreat.
I
A
mean,
pretty nice
Storm can
play
still
goes
do a
off.
lot of damage.
Ooh, there goes a storm, yeah. Yeah,
And
this Storm and
yeah, the
Zealots
Storms are doing a
army
lot.
with the Archons in the back is doing a lot of damage to these Lings, but unfortunately they're just so expensive to try to replace compared to those Lings.
I mean, the fact that he's still trading reasonably favorably, and he did kill the Defilers, which that's not a cheap unit to replace, especially the fact that it has energy. So if you have to do the consume and get stuff back on, he could be in a good spot. But Zerg just keeping the pressure on, not giving
Yeah,
Protoss any
and
time to
these
breathe or
armies just streaming across the minimap. Look, a bunch of Hydras now being produced.
that's definitely the unit you want to be taking if they're going heavy onto Archons. With the
hmm
shields having most of the Archon health pool, they
Oh
just take
wow,
full
this
damage from
Archon's just
Hydra.
getting taken out. Yeah, that might be it for the Protoss. His army's again just kind of evaporated. He luckily has a bunch of production, so he's just rallying in more zealots.
Yeah, I think it's just he's trying really hard and doing a lot of really good engagements. I've seen some of these Archon get very intense kill counts, just
Look at
not
now,
really getting anything done. Here, finally,
finally,
finally, some Archon.
we've been waiting for this moment. He heads into the bottom left. Finally, he's gonna be like, "What?" There's the play or the Dark Swarm.
Yeah, I think the jig is up here. Although he has mined so much money from these this base.
Yeah. Well, he has nothing to really reinforce this army with.
I think for us, finally, this might be the out of steam. Although I feel like I've said that 10 times now. So
Wow, these ultralists are being produced now. This is a good amount of ultras that are just gonna, like 8 ultralists that are just gonna run down there into the bottom left. It looks like with these three
If
three
if
armor.
there's any way to kill a pile of cannons incredibly fast, it is ultras under a
Hmm.
dark swarm. This is the good late game move for Zerg. If you're just like, God, these pros got these bases, I just don't know how to crack it. Yes, you do. They cost a lot of money. They're kind of big, but you definitely know how to crack these bases.
Yeah, does he go for the main or the bottom left? That's what we're gonna see here. It looks like he's going for the main.
I think I kind of like going for the main here. You still have the bottom left doing a lot of the mining, but if you can get to the main and actually clog up the production, like you've been wiping out these armies over and over, so that might just be the play. I even like still this late in the game, you still see some good adaptation from the players. You see that they're going for ultras, like when the Protoss showing these things. And even right now, the Protoss is going for reverse, which is a good way to stop ultras because of the amount of the high damage the Scarab actually does.
Hmm. Now, does he have any weavers in the main though? That's the thing. It looks like he doesn't.
He's about to have the first one, I believe.
Oh, and that was good game called. Wow, what a long game.
Unbelievable to stay in that as long as he did and make it. It wasn't just like one of those. Oh, he's 100% dead. Like he made that look like it's still possible. This is still a real game, and he stayed in for so long. Unbelievable.
Yeah, Fear Chaos taking the win there. So that was an impressive game from the Zerg. And yeah, those hidden bases proving to be very effective.
I've learned that lesson all too many times.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw this. I'm gonna throw an observer around, or just walk a probe around. I'm gonna
Hmm.
find something. There's so many times that you're just like, oh, okay, I did.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of scouting.
Well, I think that's the kind of game. If you watch the replay or analyze the game, that happens once and never again. When you see something like that significant, you're like, okay, never. That was way harder than it needed to be.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that was actually IveGotSunshine that took that win, wasn't it? I was giving that to
Yes,
Fear
I got
Chaos.
some time on that one.
Okay, here we go. So now we're gonna see another game of IveGotSunshine. He's playing Flow in this one.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he's gonna do. I mean, so far the two matches we've seen, I got Sunshine, super standard play, willing to play the longer macro game. Now we got that ZVT. I think we're gonna see a very similar thing, going to a four gas with Hive, getting defilers fast, Nidus to defend the bases, just the usual kind of stuff. I'd almost bet my imaginary money on it.
Bet your Benjamins on it. Okay. Here in the top left, we got Flow spawning us a blue Zerg, and in the top right, we have IveGotSunshine, and this time he's the yellow Zerg.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun one to watch, especially when both players are willing to play standard. I think Flo, the last time we watched him, I think he did show he was going for that 5 racks kind of style with the
Hmm.
eBay, the Academy, big Bioforce. So I'm expecting another very standard kind of game, showing that this map, this is why people like this map. Big macro games, the opportunity to play, not feel like you're getting cheesed down something weird.
Yeah, and that was very effective for Flow in the last game, just getting a big group of Terran infantry and moving in and immediately killing the Zerg player. So let's see how this game goes out for him, and if he does do one of those very quick scouts with the eBay block, and if he manages to pull that off again, that would be very interesting.
My heart would kind of break a little bit if that happened again. But there's nothing wrong with doing little stuff like that. It seems like an eBay blog or a Manor pylon. You see that stuff, you're like, that seems so cheesy. Well, I mean, the investment's kind of mathed out that it's not that bad. Even stuff like bunker rushes. There's a difference between full on cheese and just doing an aggressive move that will actually will pay for itself.
Hmm. So it looks like two drones being sent out, and he's going to be ready in time for this scouting SCV that's coming in scouting his base first.
Those two drones moving together to secure that expand and then going to scout afterwards. I love seeing that kind of stuff because it's showing that you've seen that situation where
Hmm.
you can't get the expand down where the SUV is just blocking the hatchery. And if you're just preparing, it's like, oh well, this I'll just do my scout timing here. It's a little adjustment that'll take care of a problem that could very commonly happen.
I agree. That's a very good move from the Zerg just in this early game. So we're seeing a lot of experience that he's not letting that same thing happen to him again that unfortunately happened to the previous Zerg.
Yeah, and we see over from the Terran side, we got the one racks. We got the early CC on low ground, no gas. Looks very similar to the last game, and honestly, most of the games we've seen. Because going into that big racks mid game style, just if you had to learn a way to play some TVZ, this seems like the good staple way. You should start here.
Yeah, I agree. This mass marine style is very effective if unforgiving because you do go for those quick upgrades. If you lose your first group of marines, you can easily lose the game. But after that part passes, you just have so much production and such good upgrades. It's a very effective way to play TVZ.
That and Marines are imbalanced. Am I right?
I'm not so sure about that. They are definitely very good in this matchup, though. I will not argue with that.
Nah, they're imbalanced. Come on,
Okay.
they can stab themselves and like shoot a gun faster. It doesn't even make sense.
Well, I think zealots can kill like four marines easily by one zealot, so I don't know if I would call marines imbalanced. But we see here he's going for a quick second Rax, and he has not placed that engineering bay just yet that I've seen. So now he's going for an academy actually. So this is a different variation of that build he was doing before, where he's actually going for two Rax while taking his expansion and getting an academy. So the upgrades are not going to come quite as fast this game as they did previously.
Well, maybe it's gearing for a stronger push initially, not
Mm-hmm.
on that full +1 double upgrade for the Marines on 5 racks of production. Maybe just 2 racks in stim or 3 racks in stim, and then moving it to the bigger plate later. But something that if you attack a little bit earlier than what the Zergs used to, you get that timing before they have the defenses ready.
That's exactly right. It looks like we'll see maybe a stim timing from this Terran if he does decide to be aggressive. He sent out, wow, he's killed a drone with his SCV in the main, so that's kind of annoying for the Zerg. And he sent out his Marines, his first 5 Marines, to be a little aggressive out here on the map. So because he had that scouting SCV alive so long, he must have known there was no Zerglings coming. But it looks like now the Zerg is producing Zerglings and building some Sunkens himself. So he must be.
Yeah, although
Mhm.
if you see it from the Terran side, he's not rushing for the upgrade of his stim or anything. It looks like he's just getting a bunch of Marines, getting 2 medics, and just going to put.
Wow, so he's not getting that stim upgrade?
I don't see it in production.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's about. He definitely has the minerals. I think really moving out before stim with Marines is always going to be very risky, especially with the amount of speedlings we see here on the map and these two Sunkens. He's not going to be able to break that without stim.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, especially given that he has a bit of a gas bank, that he meant to get the upgrade and maybe just forgot.
Yeah, we'll see if he's able to stim here. I hope so, because otherwise he's just going to die. It looks like he's even going to think about pushing these Sunkens, but
Stim just started now.
uh-oh. So he needs to pull back, I think. He's gonna get trapped by these links. He does have a fire bat with his forces though, and medics and marines are strong, as you were saying before, but really stim is pretty imperative in this matchup.
Yeah, I think being postured forward like this, and the fact that he does already have the scan, he's going to be able to see because he haven't really seen the tech choice yet. just scanning the main now and seeing the spire literally complete right now.
Yeah, he has done a good job. He's forced these sunkens, he's forced lings, so he knows that's drones that haven't been produced or mutas that haven't been produced. But he should see now the mutas have started and are actually halfway done. So he needs to pull this army back, especially if it doesn't have stim, and then that means it doesn't have range as well. So these marines are just gonna die to mutalisks if he doesn't get range upgrades on them. So let's see how the muta micro is, but unranged marines should get picked off pretty easily here. He's reinforcing with another group of marines and medics. It looks like he has no turrets and his engineering bay has not even finished yet, so this could go very poorly for the Terran here.
I think Sunshine being rewarded for doing a standard play and just getting a good opportunity. Although he does turn back with the Muta, grouping them together maybe costs him a little bit of time where there's no defenses available.
But here they go. They're going right into the natural. They're not even taking any damage so far, and there's literally no turrets on the map.
He is seeing that he's seeing no turrets. He's seeing a giant wide open SCV line.
Yeah.
This is
This
you
is
hate
the
to watch
dream
this
for
kind of stuff,
Zerg right now,
but
yeah.
The Terran is pushing into
Oh,
the
the
map to
Terran's
see if
pushing.
he
He's
can
doing a
break them.
counterattack, so let's see how effective these Marines and medics are. Oh no, so he's losing a decent amount, and these Sunkens are just doing work here, and it looks like the Mutas will be able to clean up the remaining Marines.
I mean, so if we're looking at this situation, this bought time for the Turks to get up. This whittled down the also whittled down the bio count. In this situation, which side do you think actually came ahead in the exchange?
I would say the Zerg because he's destroyed that Marine medic ball of the Terran. And really, as the Terran, you want to get that up to a sizable army of, let's say, two groups of Marines and, say, four medics. And I think he died with maybe 16 Marines. So he wasn't really able to get such a good trade. But like you said, he has bought himself some time. He's got some turrets up. But it looks like he's just going to get overwhelmed here. He just doesn't have enough Marines to really fight effectively against this Muta ball and all these lings that he's massed up and is sending in here. So yeah, he's
Is
got to
exact
retreat from the natural now. He's got more Marines pumping out of his racks, but it just looks like it's too little, and he doesn't have any turrets protecting the racks, so these mutas are going to have free reign in here in his base. You really should have maybe a couple turrets defending your racks. Those turrets look a little too misplaced there, I gotta say.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the general good luck of things, but it's like you were saying early on. If you lose that early Marine force, it's hard to keep control of the map, and then this kind of thing can.
Yeah, this is a very dynamic matchup, and we've seen here the Terran player just making that one mistake. He did try to stim in, but he got held by those sunkens, and then the Zerg player very quick to counterattack and effectively end the game here as he is camping these racks, and he's got the Terran player pulled back into one base of mining, and he's just rallying in more and more lings, and these mutas are just basically taking out these racks one by one, it looks like. Terran player trying to micro back, trying to save some Marines, but look at all these lings coming in here. This is just too many lings coming into the mineral line even. The SCVs are getting pulled, but there's no Marines out there, and there's the GG called by Flow. So Sunshine takes another win here.
Yeah, I liked Flo's plan early on. I do just wonder if it was maybe forgetting the stem or delaying it longer than he should have, because that force walking up, there was only the two Sunkens there. If he had stem available, had the fire bats, had the medics, I think that could have been a really strong force to get some damage done. But maybe just missing his timing a little bit and letting the standard three hash muta pull its weight in gold. Although I gotta say, Sunshine might be my favorite player.
Well,
Three different matchups he against each race, and he did the most standard build in all of them. He is a coach's dream. Whatever team got him, you should be counting their lucky stars.
yeah, I agree with that, and I think he's 3-0, so he's definitely playing very well with those standard builds. So watch out for
Absolutely.
Sunshine out there, guys. Okay, I've hosted the next game. We're gonna see who's in this one. Okay, so this guy's name is Wrench, and he's starting in the bottom left as the purple Zerg. I mean, purple Protoss, sorry. And the Zerg is in the top right as I've got Sunshine, the orange Zerg.
Okay, I'm excited to watch this one. This is why was recommended we should watch this. French is one of the guys from the team I was on last season, and also this one. He's a pretty strong tier 2 Protoss, and against someone like Sunshine, so willing to play the standard. If nothing else, this is a good game for our coach to yell at Wrench about. So
Okay.
I'm excited to watch how this one's going to turn out.
Yeah, we'll see what Sunshine has in store for us. I believe the last game we saw him play PvZ, he went for a big group of Hydras
He
and a
did,
big attack
yeah,
early on.
Yeah, he did the super typical 3-hatch Spire, so you can get some Scourge and defend the Corsairs, and the
Hmm.
5-hatch Hydra.
Yeah.
Like a build so standard, I think if you go on Liquipedia, it has the little check mark next to it.
Oh, okay, the check mark. I didn't know about that. Can you tell me more about this check mark?
Oh, you memer. Liquipedia is not up to date. So
Oh,
if it has that check mark, it's been standard for a decade.
really? Wow. Okay, standard for a decade. That shows you how old this game is, I guess. That meta games, kind of stick the same for so long.
Well, I mean, so I try to keep up on the pro scene, but this is before I really got into it. To my knowledge, the 3-hatch Spire into 5-hatch Hydra was the response to when the Bisu build came out. Now it's the way to fight against. So we're talking that level of
Yeah,
old
wow.
since
That was a long
Bisu
time
beat
ago.
Savior in the finals.
Yeah. So it must have been 2009 or so that they came out with this build. That's crazy.
I mean, it stayed the standard for a long time. It gives you a very flexible, strong mid game, a way to establish the bases, get you the tech you need. And it definitely things have developed since then that will help you not have to do that kind of stuff. Although we do see Sunshine doing slightly different thing. He is getting 6 lings looking to put pressure.
Yeah, so I think Wrench is going to have to throw down another cannon to try to counter this, but he does have his probe alive in Sunshine's base, and so he should have seen that the amount of lings that he built and should be able to, effectively delay this attack. And we see
No,
Sunshine.
he's responding in a perfect way. You got the overpull, you see the length, but he got the one cannon beforehand. That should be enough
Mhm.
to defend it, considering the amount of distance there is against a cross map.
Oh, okay. My mistake there. So it looks like he's going to be able to hold off these four lings with just one cannon. Oh, and there goes one ling right there. So the cannon already paying dividends, I guess.
Yeah, that's the big reason the scouting in the early game is so important. If you do a forge expand, you need to know: do I need one cannon? Do I need two? Like when do I need it done by? You need to see these kind of things so you can be ready. Because there's so many. It's so easy to just go, oh, the cannon wasn't done yet, and legs run to your main. The game's over. Like like it was fun, but not really.
Yeah, and that scouting probe did delay these next two Zerglings from reaching the front here. So
Yeah.
they're just finally
I'm
here. I think six lings really can take out one cannon, but maybe I'm mistaken on that one. They can
no
definitely
no
run
6
by
is
it.
enough to try to get something done. Typically, if you see 4, one cannon should be enough to cover it. 6, you might want 2, or you might want like a zealot to help out, or at least pull the probes to block the holes and let the cannon do the work. Something you gotta be a little more respectful of.
But we're seeing Sunshine content to just, kind of wait outside the Protoss base, and he is taking the mineral only and getting up to layered tech, so pretty similar build to what we saw last time, if a slightly different opener.
I don't even think it was a different opener, just a different adaptation because it was still the overpool as an opening. It's just this time he got a couple more links, which I'm surprised. I don't think he scouted anything that said, "Oh, I should make links to punish this." So maybe just testing out different flavors and seeing which one suits him a little. Well, so far from both sides, we're seeing some very standard stuff. The biggest thing that we're going to see that's different than the last game, If we're going straight for that Citadel, no Stargate from the Protoss player. He's playing out a big mid-game two-base push.
Yeah, no Stargate. He's got the +1 going. He's adding another gateway into his main. So it does look like he's trying to get something done with Zealots this game. So we'll
Yeah,
see if
yeah.
he's
So
able to be aggressive
what
here.
this kind yeah, what kind of build you can expect out of something like this if you see a no Stargate but the Citadel instead, which the Zerg fully sees now. There's that Overlord in the base, and there's nothing to make it go away. It's a big play to get a big swell of gateways. You get your Zealot legs, you get some +1. You guys throw down some Archons or go straight into Storm, but it's a big two base aggressive push, especially designed to punish Hydra builds. So I'm definitely curious to see how Sunshine going to react to this. He's got the Spire on the way, which is almost done, but he hasn't banked a ton of gas. So I don't think he's going to go actually into Muse. I think it's still going to be just enough for some Skirsh. But without any quarter shorts on the map, they don't really do a whole lot.
So he's trying to surround these first Zealots that have ventured out, and I think any Zealot he can kill here would be very helpful. He's got one down to 4 HP, but these Zealots are going to make it back to the base of Wrench without taking any real damage here.
Absolutely. But it does force him to show how many links have you made. Do they have speed yet? It kind of gives the Pro some information about how he needs to adapt this push and what he needs to be careful of moving forward. You can already see that the Protoss player has the cannons in the mineral lines in case he did go mutas and he's ready to punch.
So the Protoss seems to be producing off only 2 gateways, adding on a bunch of cannons, and going into Templar tech. Is this how this build is normally done? Oh, here he is adding more gateways. Seems like after the attack he's adding gateways, but here come all the Zealots into the the Zerg Natural here. And let's see if he's able to focus down this Sunken. He's killing all the Zerglings basically. He's taking out that Sunken very quickly. The Zerg player might be in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, it's
There's a
especially
Sunken
it
finishing.
is speed zealots do a lot to punish this kind of stuff, but notably it's speed zealots with +1 and the Zerg doesn't have
Exactly.
armor. So these zealots will mow through a lot more links than you think.
I think the Protoss could possibly have run by those Sunkens there, maybe even trying to take out the Spire. But ultimately the Sunkens morphed in time and the Zerglings are able to chase back the remaining Zealots back to the natural of the Protoss. And it looks like a big swarm of Zerglings actually has been produced now. And there's 2 uh, Templar that have now morphed themselves into an Archon, but there's really nothing else to defend this. So the Zerglings could just go in there and end the game right now, I'm pretty sure. Some probes
Yeah,
are
you can
being
see
pulled.
you can see they're trying to plug this up.
There is one Archon out there now, which should be able to hold off a number of Zerglings, but this is so many links. And here come the Mutalisks now from the Zerg player that are heading towards the Protoss base, so we'll see if he even has enough cannons to hold this off, or if his Archons can get in the right position. Because Archons are super effective against Mutas if they're able to get their attacks off.
Now, I think he has the ability to use the Archons to defend, but the cannons are going to be enough. He's going to pull a lot of the probes to the natural that's a little more easily defended, and already has the Archon. But especially online, you definitely don't want to be trying to do micro against Archons. That is a surefire way to lose your Mutalisk.
Oh, and so there's the Archons getting right in there on the Mutalisks. Oh, this could be very bad. Oh, he loses a good amount. He's got 4 left, and they're got very little HP, so it was good he was able to respond when he did, but he was a little late pulling them away, and it cost him. Now a
But do
group
you
of
see
Zealots
this?
are moving out,
Yeah,
yeah.
you see that? They just walk right past the links
Uh-huh.
completely unseen.
Uh-oh. These mutas could just melt here. Let's see. Okay, he's pulling them back. Those Archons actually getting focused down by the Zerglings, and the Zealots being forced to retreat here.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little counterintuitive, but
Ooh.
as good as Archons are against Lings, Lings are good against Archons too because they can get that surround. They can do a lot
Yeah.
of it.
Wow, so he takes out that Archon with his mutas. That was risky play, but it worked out. So now without the Archons, this Protoss push is kind of stalled. And like you said, the Archons not being supported allowed them to get surrounded by Lings and taken out rather easily.
I mean, so this still is actually not that bad spot to be in for the Protoss player because it's still a situation you're very comfortable with. It's you with two base, but you have a lot of tech against their three base, but one of them's not even a gas. And if you already have the Templar tech ready, since you've made these Archons and you have the Zealot legs and things, you're already ready to deal with the Hydra push that might be following up. And you can see he's adding in Dragoons now, ready for a push, adding in Dragoons so he can break the Sunkens that are built for defense. Definitely a little concern for Sunshine. This seems like a push that's going to be very strong and do a lot of damage depending on where he moves it to. I think maybe going up into that high ground pond towards the third rather than trying to force your way across these
I
bridges
agree, there's too
might
many
be the way to go.
Hydras on the other end of this ramp, and look, he's even getting a flank now, Sunshine is, onto this Protoss force who doesn't have any Templars for Storm, so these Hydras are going to be very effective.
Hey, he's researching he's building some Templars now. Looks like he's already getting the Ambulant upgrade, so Storm should be finished already. Getting ready to have the Templars for defense, but maybe hoping that the Zerg was being a little greedy, not having units for defense. But
Hmm.
Sunshine, on top of everything, building exactly what he needs.
And now the Archon gets taken out, and there's just so many Hydras flooding across the map right now. Protoss is trying to hold on with Dragoons, but Hydras are pretty effective, and they're taking out these Dragoons right now. They're taking out that Templar. There's one Templar left, but it doesn't have the energy. This might just be too much Zerg forces right here at the front for the Protoss to hold back.
I think this might be losing a lot of his army, being a little too aggressive with the pushes. You saw the one early and the one just now. You can't be affording to throw away a giant chunk of army with something like this that relies on a big critical mass of upgraded units.
Yeah, there's the GG from Wrench. So again, we've got Sunshine taking the victory. So I believe he moves to 4-0 in this group now.
So clearly a Smurf in the wrong bracket.
In the wrong bracket, yes, I agree.
But that was again just standard play across the board, showing that if you just practice the normal stuff, you can like just have enough solid gameplay where even if games get in weird spots or you get behind a bit, just rely on it. It's like, oh, I've done this build so many times. I'm going to be fine. I know how to adapt and climb my way back to this game. Was definitely in trouble early, but definitely held it together, stayed calm, and came out on top in the mid game.
Yeah, nice win for Sunshine, sticking with his build and overall winning with a big group of Hydralisks, just doing a fast attack to punish that Protoss who had moved out a little too quickly there across the map and taken some bad engagements.
Yeah, I think especially that first attack, if he because he sent all those zealots out, but didn't have anything else to help reinforce it. If he saw the Sunkens and realized, oh, this is gonna be difficult to break, and pulled back there, waited for a little bit more reinforcements, waited for those added gateways to kick in, I think that push would have been enough to put it over.
Okay, so let's move on to the next game then. Are you ready to start this one?
If I said no, could I stop you anymore?
No, I've already started it, so I'm hoping it's a yes.
It's whatever you want, to be frank.
Good, that's the way I like it. Okay. So here we've got Fear Chaos spawning in the top left as the teal Protoss. And we've got BRu.Quad spawning in the top right as the brown Zerg.
I'm excited to see how Quad plays this matchup instead of Sunshine. We've seen the clear standard. I want to see if he's doing the same thing, or maybe something a little more aggressive, or maybe just a little more unorthodox, just to show a contrast to styles. So if you remember from the game before, Fear went to a very standard. He went Forge, he went Stargate, like the most recommended kind of style for anyone beginning to learn this matchup from the Pro side.
Yeah, he did show a very standard style right up until he started taking bases on the other side of the map with almost zero defenses, but that ended up being very effective for him, I believe. So we'll see if he shows some hidden bases in this game. And yeah, if he continues with that standard play to start the game, we'll just have to see how this game develops for both these players.
It seems like Quad's gearing up to open up that overpool, that super standard safe opening most Zergs will do in this matchup nowadays. Just gotta see what kind of thing Fear Cat's doing. If he's gonna open up with a forge, if he's gonna open with a gateway. Looks like from his positioning, it's gonna be a forge.
Yeah, so this looks like
Ooh,
a
Quad
12
going for a
hatch, right?
hatch. Yeah, he's going for a hatchery first too. Wow, that's surprising. That's a little bit of a risky kind of build. If they do something with gateways early, a gateway expand,
Mm-hmm.
or even just proxy gates, this is a very difficult build to hang on to. That's why Overpool kind of became the standard to be safe. That you'll have the lings in time to defend against any kind of zealot pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm expecting from the pros here, sees the early hatch, sees the delayed pool, straight Nexus, no cannons, no
Uh-huh.
nothing. And even
Oh, he
canceled the cannons
canceled the
there.
cannon. Yeah, you
He
called it,
he
man.
gets it. He's good reaction by our Fear Chaos.
Yeah, he's listening to you right now. Somehow he knows.
Oh man, I'm some kind of time mage then. I could talk through time.
Yes. No, you're a coach. You're not a player in this league. You're a coach.
No, I just get yelled at by Dragon a lot.
Oh, really? That's unfortunate.
No, he's fantastic, and he doesn't
Good.
yell at me
He's
that
your
much.
coach,
He just
Dragon?
yeah, Dragon. He is a superstar.
Yeah, he's pretty good, I think. So that's lucky for you. Now, does he play Protoss and Zerg?
I believe he used to play Zerg and recently race switched to Pro, so should be very competent with both.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I like what Quad's doing here. You see, he didn't go for that mineral third. He's going for the third with a gas, a little more value to what he's getting, and something that also is going to be a little not expanding towards the Protoss, a
Mm-hmm.
little more out of the way for a scout. Definitely a good plan moving forward. That he's not trying to do some big hydra.
Yeah. Do you think this base is easier to defend because it has that ramp, or do you think the mineral only is easier to defend?
I if I was gonna take a third on playing Zerg, I'd rather start taking for another main.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's the way I would want to play because
Mm-hmm.
I know when I'm playing Protoss, my plan is keep Zerg on 3 base or less. If they don't get that fourth, I'm not worried
Wow,
anymore.
so here's the
Oh,
Lings
these
coming in
Lings!
for Quad.
Oh
Very
no!
aggressive play. He's going to be able to take out this cannon, it looks like. And now the probes are in a lot of trouble here. He's pulled his probes, but there's 4 Lings right there. They're taking him out one by one. Ooh, so he's down now to 2 Lings. Let's see if he's following this up with additional Lings. He's
Yeah, this is
focused down a
definitely
number of
a
probes. It looks like
very
he's getting another one. Ooh, so now the Lings go down and there is a Zealot out, as well as a cannon which is halfway finished. So this attack has been held off for the time being, but a very nice move. Oh, and he's trying to get this Zergling into the main, but he's not going to be able to. But he did
I
get
mean, for that minimal
good group
investment,
of
he got a
probes.
cannon, he got the Protoss on the back foot, got a good amount of probes, seeing a lot of basic kind of stuff that is just going to be like, oh, this is a great time for me to drone up and get that economy surged.
Hmm.
That was fantastic, just knowing he could force his way through. Now you can actually see right now, BRu.Quad playing a very unusual style. Even though he took the gas base, if you notice, he just now took a gas, no lair,
Yeah, he's
just
taking
going for
two
this
gas at the same
massive
time.
economy mineral base play.
He had 5 hatches before he took any gas, and he was just on Zerglings, so it's kind
Yeah,
of an
I'm not
interesting
sure
play.
what this is kind of signifying, but this is definitely a greedy adaptation, seeing what the pro is doing and responding to. You did a forge, you got an early nexus. I'm going to slam down a bunch of hatcheries. Not something I'm particularly experienced with, but that seemed like a very actual response, not just a
Oh, you
random thing
think that
he's
was more
doing.
reactive? Okay. Yeah,
It's
either way, it definitely has worked so far. Let's see if he's able to get his tech units in time with these two gases he's added on.
Yeah, I don't like this positioning for the Stargate and the Cybernetics core. Partly because if there was Hydras, they kill one pylon and everything's off. But mostly because he doesn't even have to scout. He sees you build a Stargate. That's the big question the Zerg has if you don't get an Overlord in the main is did they get a Stargate or did they just go straight into a Citadel for that big gateway push? But now you're basically handing them the answer for no particular reason.
Yeah, I have to agree
Definitely.
with you. He doesn't even have to send Overlord into the main. He's just able to see right now
Yeah,
exactly
so
what tech
so
you went
something
for.
I'm seeing from the Protoss player in this game, he's got that early Corsair, but he's not making extra, and he's going straight for a Templar. I think he is going to this big mid-game ground army rather than he's like looking for a Spire before he continues production. But maybe seeing that the lair's not even done yet, realizes, oh, I don't need Corsairs. This is fine.
Oh, okay. I think there's a good timing to be aggressive with Corsair and get like, you know, I think if you get five or like a critical number out, you can just take out overlords and scourge don't even really bother you. So let's see if he's able to take out some overlords here.
Yeah, I would be looking for the ones around my base. Get an idea of where Zerglings are. You see that one on that ridge between the his natural and the base right below it. And you see he's pressuring into these side bases, trying to force him to have something to actually defend the Corsair, taking the free damage where.
Yeah, he is forcing out a spore colony at each of these bases. Oh, and now he's taking some damage on that Corsair.
This is a very interesting game. I'm not really sure who's in a good position. It seemed like the Zerg did get a lot of economy moving forward, but with so little knowledge about what the Pross is gearing up to do, I'm curious what the play actually is. We do see Fearcast going for that early Dark Templar. He's getting stormed, but I think he wants to just get some harassment of Templar. Except because of how this game panned out, he's forcing a spore at every base. So that Dark Templar is really not going to do anything other than stay in the middle of the map.
Yeah, unless it can get into the main somehow. There is a spore at each of these expansions so far, so
I mean, if you look at like the natural though, there's some wall off. There's already Hydras. They got a
yeah,
spore at the
he's
front
gonna
and the
need a
center.
shuttle
Like
or
this
something.
isn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
he's
gonna
not
need to
walking in
play
there, that's for
StarCraft.
sure. Yeah.
He's gonna need to learn Blink from StarCraft too.
Yes, some imbalanced blink micro right now. TTs with blink, that's so broken.
They're not broken. They're not even that good.
So here he's moving down to the looks like the bottom right, and he might be able to take out this hatchery even before it finishes because DTs are just so good.
I do like that he's going into the main and seeing what's going on there, not immediately revealing the DT on the map. But if you take a look, you already see the Zerg going for this very fast hive. I'm genuinely curious what his plan is. This might be some kind of cool time attack, and I'm excited to see it. I would say right now though, if I'm the Protoss player, I'm sweating. I see the Zerg getting up to 4 bases, maybe trying to get up towards 5. Giant swell of economy. I couldn't get any harassment done. I don't even have that third established. I don't know what my play is as Protoss, but I'm worried.
Wow, so he manages to save that hatchery with 78 HP, taking out the DT. But like you said, as Protoss, you're kind of worried about the amount of bases now that the Zerg is getting on.
Well, especially just the way he got it too, because you had that Corsair. You saw how he got the bases, how much stuff he threw there. because he went so aggressive getting hatcheries before lair, but you didn't do anything to punish the late tech, and now he's even at hive faster than usual. Like I've never seen a style like this, but it's really cool. And unlike the other game, you already see this quad. He's got links everywhere. He is seeing
There's no
expansion.
hidden
He is making
bases.
sure not
Not in this game. Yeah, that's smart play. I wonder if he
Protoss
saw
moving
the other
out,
game or
finding
something. Yeah.
maybe. But you see Protoss moving out, going towards that lower right corner, trying to force something to happen. Maybe force some static defense, maybe force some army movements.
Yeah, this is the perfect spot to attack if you're Protoss. It's looking very lightly defended here. And he has a lot of Zealots, but he's forced back now because he doesn't have
Mm.
detection. That's very unfortunate.
So he could actually be in an okay spot not having detection. If it's a low amount of lurkers, like this one only has the one there, these Templars could just blindly storm because you see where the spines are coming from. So
But
that's actually not the end of the world.
now a
You just
bunch
gotta
of
be very
more
aware
lurkers
when you.
have morphed, though. He must have seen those eggs and known he really doesn't have a timing here to be aggressive.
Absolutely, I love Quad's play though. Seems very thought out because he had the spores before the DT got there. He's got the lurkers there to force robotics. He's taking all these bases, but he has an eye of what the pro is doing, so he knows like they're not taking bases. I should be building hydras. I should be building units. Seems very planned out for this matchup, and I love what I'm seeing.
Yeah, he has very good map vision as well, as we were mentioning before, and he has kind of units scattered all over his main and each of the expansions, so he should be safe to defend his bases now.
Yeah, it seems like Quad is going for just this big early ultraless style, getting ultra speed and these like upgrades for armor on everything. He's just planning for this big. You won't be able to deal with this army, and I love it. This is if I was gonna play Zerg, this might be my kind of Zerg.
Yeah, I'm really liking this style as well. Let's see if he's able to pull it off with these fast ultralists. There's one heading out kind of by itself, and he's going to show the Protoss what he's doing. He's pulling it back now. He's got a good amount of lings with these upgrades. Protoss is adding in some Dragoons here, hopefully to deal with those ultras.
Well, the Dragoons aren't that good against ultras. Like they'll do a pretty significant damage, but if you're gonna attack a unit to get ready for ultras, you want Reaper. Or at least more Storm or Archon or something that does big beefy damage that you can take real full advantage of. Like stuff like Zealots, you don't want to be in melee range, and Ultra's armor does double duty against Zealot hitting twice. So he's got to be aware, like, really aware of what he wants to be doing for his unit composition. I think Quad though is going to be in a very good position if he can defend this lower right base, which I still don't see a lot of detection. He's got this observer, but it's away from the front of the battle.
Yeah, he must be afraid of the Spore and the Scourge that are out there. His Dragoons were trading okay with the Lurkers, but now he's forced to pull back.
I don't like that there's random units for the Zerg just kind of scatter map. You don't want to be donating an Ultralisk here and Ultralisk there. They're expensive, and that's the kind of thing you can do to start throwing away in the van.
He does have a lot of Ultras. Is he getting the armor upgrade? Yeah, he is. You might want to wait for that. There he goes and loses one Ultralisk. He's trying to kind of flank in, but like you said, he's just attacking one at a time with his Ultralisks, which is really not an effective usage of them. And he loses another one.
I'm seeing a lot of overlords move over the map. I've been
Yeah, is
trying to
this a
keep an eye on the
drop over
upgrades. I
here?
see this. I see the speed, but I don't see drops like anything in it. So I don't know if they've researched.
Yeah, there's another Ultra that seems to be by itself getting focused down, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think something that you gotta remember with this kind of situation as a Zerg, if you got all these bases spread out, you're already at the high tech, and you see that he's been trying poking outside. This would be the situation that you would want some Nidus canals. so you can
Mm-hmm.
move the army from one side to the other, especially moving extra lurkers or ultralists. Something to make sure that you can defend the bases depending on how he's moving. But this is a pretty strong push, doing some good storms to stop lurkers from doing a lot of damage, but just not enough.
Yeah, those were great storms on the lurkers, even though it didn't look like he had vision of them, but he was able to look for the spines like you advised him to earlier. And he is now pushing into this natural expansion, and the Ultralists are popping out kind of one by one right now, and he's not able to overwhelm this Protoss push that's coming in with a lot of Zealots,
Yeah,
two
all the
Archons.
lurkers are dead. This is definitely a problem for Zerg. He needs a plan to stop this attack.
Oh, and now the Zerg's just doing a counterattack. He's got 5 Ultralisks. It looks like 4 Lings moving into the natural of the Protoss. So he might be even trying to do some kind of base race where he gets in here and gets among the production of the
Yeah,
Protoss. He's
I would be on
reinforcing
board with
this with
that.
Lings. Yeah, this is kind of a cool move from the Zerg. He does have a lot of bases, and he's just decided to counterattack. So we've got action going on both sides of the map right now. Ooh, he's attacking his own hatchery on one side, but okay, his units have responded now.
Yeah, Pro is definitely getting the worst end of this deal
Wow,
because
yeah.
as soon as he
The
kills the
natural's
main and
been
the natural,
completely
the Zerg's
destroyed.
still on 3, now 4 bases.
Yeah, if he loses his tech here, though, that could be a big blow. Let's see if he's able to rebuild it here. Um, if he loses this hive, that would be pretty brutal. Especially this Ultralisk and spawning pool is what he's really using right now. And look at this, he's been kept out of the main of the Protoss by these Archons and Zealots. But he's reinforcing this push with a bunch of Zerglings.
You can see Archon's getting a lot of stuff done against these Ultras, having enough health to tank the hits instead of wasting Zealous on them and doing a lot of damage per punch to get through that.
And Protoss has done well to add in DTs to this composition, and his Archons on the top of the ramp are doing so much damage.
Yeah, this game went very, I think, in a pretty strong Zerg favor to almost like, I think I might even favor the Protoss now because he managed to save all his production, save his tech. He's got a giant bank built up, so losing the base, it's not like he's gonna dry out of money really fast, but that good positioning with the Archons to block the ramp to really get maximum effectiveness against these Ultras. That was,
Mm-hmm.
you see this Archon 23 kills.
Yeah, and he has one on the other side with 19 kills, so definitely nice Archon control here, or just usage.
Although he is not pushing into that main anymore. If he once he kills that hive and that spire, this is definitely going to be a much different game because you see the Zerg, he is not really rebuilding a lot of stuff. He's rebuilding a spawning pool and an ultra scabbard in that middle base, but if that gets sieged up, that could, like, you would figure at this point you want to rebuild that lurker den. That
Yeah.
might be the play to really defend your stuff.
He's trying to save this hive. Let's see if he's able to do it. These Archons with their shields are just so effective, though.
Well, it's that giant punch damage that does do small AoE. It just melts through Zerglings. He is sending some ultras up. This is a
Wow,
good
this is a good amount
opportunity
of
for the
ultras here.
Protoss to move in. Protoss moving across the map to a
Oh,
different
he
base.
loses the hive. But there's more Ultralisk morphing here. The Protoss has a huge
Yeah,
bank.
11. Yeah, Zerg pulling the classic, hey, I'm not bad at macro, I just wanted a lot of ultras.
Yeah. And now the Zerg is just expanding to the bottom left. He says, "Okay, you killed 2 of my bases. I'm taking 2 more." So this is very. Oh man, that's a lot of Ultralisks. They really need some cracklings with them and some overlords. Otherwise, these DTs are gonna do a lot of damage to them. But that's so many Ultralisks. Wow, the Protoss army just evaporating.
The DTs are a very good answer against these ultras, doing so much damage per swipe.
Yeah, exactly. These DTs, there's no counter to them right now. Okay, here come the overlords, so the DT should fall relatively quickly. And the Zerg just continuing to rally into the natural.
I mean, Zerg is aware of that third base in the left, but he hasn't scouted in a while. The last time was when the Overlord ran past, and that's been a while ago. Not really aware of how much saturation or what kind of defense is actually.
I think the Zerg could just take it out. I don't think pushing the main is going to work out here with the amount of Archons that are on top of that ramp, though.
Yeah, I think seeing that, you should be looking to get something else done. And you see there's no natural, you see there's no mineral third. Like, if you know that base is there, it's try to keep them down and contained rather than on the map. Although with how many bases he's taken, maybe he's just going, no, I got enough of an economy lead. I don't need to force my issue.
Yeah, it is still that one Protoss mining base right now, compared to, looks like 3 for the Zerg. Protoss able to get some damage done with his Corsairs harassing, but he really has nothing else on the map to do any kind of damage. He's sending out a DT. He's trying to take another base with this probe. Oh, Quad asking for a pause. Oh, they must have paused the game.
I guess so. Good to see some nice manner though,
Yeah.
rather than just a rude pause like suck it nerd. I get it.
Yeah, and then the unpause like right after, like without saying anything. Yeah,
If you did that in a match, you know it's gonna get watched.
yeah. What do you do on ladder when the guy pauses though? I'll wait a little bit, but eventually it's like, dude, I got things to do.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I give him a fair amount of time.
It also depends on the state of the game too. Like if you're totally in his base killing him and he pauses, it's like, no, dude, you need to get out of the game.
In that spot, I might just wait. I might be like, I'll wait a half hour. You're gonna
Really,
watch this
really,
end.
you're gonna watch this, dude. That guy's like, meanwhile, like going out to eat, like watching a movie.
Yeah. So for us moving around, trying to take out a little bit of bases at a time, get some control of the map again. And I think this is a good thing to do. But the one thing he's just not being cautious of, like you see this army, no observers, and he knows lurkers were an option. So just walking into a base like that seems very risky. Easy way to maybe throw away all these melee units.
Yeah, now he did kill the Hydralisk Den. Do you think he rebuilt it somewhere on this map?
I am looking for it, but I don't see it yet.
Well, the Protoss Bank is really coming in handy here. He still has 2k while the Zerg is basically out keeping himself very low on minerals, but it looks like he's going to be able to hang on to this hatch down at the bottom, and he has destroyed another Protoss army here. Wow, look at all those storms going off at the same spot. He's going to
Yeah,
have to try to moor some Archons.
I think Zerg just got into a bad spot when he like, I mean, you talk when he lost his man, lost his production, but even just when you notice the Protoss player is making a ton of Archons to fight your Ultras, that's when you go back into a Hydra switch. Because Hydras are a super good way to eat through Archons quickly, but you're letting Archons get maximum value against something like an Ultralisk. So I think it's just not like the Protoss adapted his unit composition, but the Zerg didn't do the same.
Yeah, that being said, these Ultralisks are doing a lot of damage, and he's basically mined out of his third base, the Protoss is. He's now started mining again from his natural, and he's trying to take this 12 o'clock base. It looks like it might get taken out, as a lot of Ultralisks are being sent up there right
There
now.
is one DT doing a lot of work to these Ultras, but that is a tremendous amount of health he's going to have to choose.
Yes, there's looks like 9 Ultralisks, now 8. And even more being sent in, so this Nexus is not long for this world right now.
Yeah, I mean, this game's been very back and forth, and I feel like every time I say this player has a big advantage, something happens.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a caster curse.
You are, man.
I think Zerg just leaning into his lead, realizing this might be the time to start taking out bases, though.
Yeah, this pure
done.
ultra army
before, yeah, just pure ultras walking into bases.
forcing all these probes out. They're just gonna get massacred here. They cannot fight ultras, these probes. Look at the armor on those ultralists. Taking like 1 damage from probes.
That was definitely a good game. A lot of back
That
and forth
was.
action. I think there was multiple times that game I thought one player was gonna win, and then switch. I'm like, oh no, he threw. This is gonna change now, and it's a very exciting game. So that's why I like watching these like mid-level games from this league. It doesn't have to be top-end pros to give you entertaining games.
Definitely, that was a very entertaining game.
Although I gotta say, in my heart of hearts, there is that little twinge where I'm like, really, dude, you just turned all your money into ultras because you didn't want to macro with your money. I wish we could do that with Protoss. That'd be cool. That's my low key conspiracy theory on why Protoss has warp gates in StarCraft 2. It's like, no, we got to give them the way to just burn money.
Hey, it's an effective way, I guess. You get like 12 warp gates. You're just constantly warping in units. Okay, I'm gonna ask you now. Are you ready? You ready for this?
I mean, maybe. We've
Maybe.
definitely had a lot of exciting games. My heart
Yes.
can still take it, but I don't know if I could take another. I'm taking 5 half Floodlibrere game. That was intense, but a very interesting build. And looks like a really cool response to a greedy kind of two-base Protoss open.
Yeah, that was an interesting build. Um, sure, I'll start this game then. You sound like you're ready, even though you might be a little. I know you've been casting pretty much all day here.
No, I'm still good. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it.
I did have that little realization when we got like halfway through the cast, like, and then we got this game with Brent. I'm like, oh, there's a fifth player in this group.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We've got maybe two games left after this one. So this is a PvP, and we've got looks like Fear Chaos here in the bottom left, and Wrench over here in the top left. And they're both Protoss. So why don't you take us through how this matchup usually goes?
I mean, we did see that a little bit earlier when I was casting with Rock. We had a nice PvP that exemplified a lot of things with the matchup. The big advantage that you can gain early with the build order is, do I think I can skip detection? Because the way you want to be thinking about your openings in this matchup is, am I going for a robotics so I don't die to observers? Do I want a lot of gateways? Or am I going to go DTs? So in the
Yeah,
early
so the
game,
robotics will
it's
counter the
about,
DTs.
yeah, if you get the robotics and observer and they commit to an early DT play that doesn't do enough damage, game's probably over right there.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's exactly why in the standard for this matchup, it is two gate robotics. You get an
Hmm.
observer fast enough to stop DTs. You get Reavers, which is a very good power unit early in the game against the mass Dragoon army, which is what you see in this matchup mostly. A lot of Dragoons, especially early. But the other big thing with this is shuttles are your good way to get some harass, and it's very difficult to actually expand.
Yeah, so we'll see if this game gets beyond that Dragoon Reaver phase that a lot of PvPs end up in, with the Reavers kind of harassing the bases and the Dragoons just being incredibly mobile out on the map, trying to take out shuttles as they go around and do that harassment. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how both these players open, if one of them does try to rush for DTs, and if someone gets caught, yeah, skipping that detection. Pretty much they do that pretty heavy one basing from what I've seen of like two gateways, even getting a Reaver, getting obs, and then expanding. But we'll see what ends up
Yeah,
happening in this game.
yeah, that's the usual plan for this kind of matchup because if you take that Nexus to get that expansion too early, you might be 8 Dragoons against 10 Dragoons.
Hmm.
But then their Dragoons will kill yours so fast, you'll be out of any, and they'll have like 5 left over, but you only have 2 gateways of production. So that's the why expanding this matchup is so difficult. Is you just don't have enough production early that if you lose a big chunk of army, you can't rebuild it before they're already pushing and getting further into your base.
So here we see both players going for an early Zealot. White was moving out with his, Chaos was, until he decided to return back to his base.
Yeah, so Chaos went for the Zealot before the Cybernetics core,
Mm-hmm.
which signals if you want to be a little bit aggressive. And once he saw that Wrench also had a Zealot, you're not really going to get anything done with yours, so you might as well keep it home and wait for the push with some Dragoons. Because that's one of the things that you can do in the Dragoon versus Dragoon fight. If you have a couple Zealots, they might eat some shots, which they take half damage from Dragoons compared to actual Dragoons. And they actually do a lot of DPS, so it's forcing you to micro your Dragoons and tax your APM a lot harder than if you just had a pile of Dragoons trying to shoot at each other. I mean, if you see across the board, you look at both these guys, they're basically doing a similar opening. The big difference being Wrench still on one gateway. So I think Wrench might be gearing up to do either some kind of big tech play, like more severe than usual with this robotics, might be going for some kind of fast reaver with shuttle or something, or maybe gearing up if I cut back on my production, I can keep producing units but still get a Nexus. So definitely curious to see what Wrench does moving forward from this point.
Yeah, it looks like Wrench is going for that fast robotics, and now he's adding on his second gateway, so his tech has been faster throughout this game, but he might just end up with less Dragoons. Let's see how the gateways end up kicking in for Chaos.
So the critical number you're looking for in a Dragoon versus Dragoon fight is you want five, because five Dragoons shooting twice will kill a Dragoon. So that's like the big number. So if you have five to their four, you know you can start eliminating their Dragoons way faster than they can eliminate yours. You see what Chaos is doing here. He has a similar army to Wrench, but since Wrench has to camp atop his ramp, knowing his production is going to be a little lower, Chaos can get that contain at the bottom of the ramp, make it very difficult to actually move. So even though the Dragoon
Wow,
numbers favor
yeah,
Wrench, it will be difficult to actually walk off that without taking a bunch of free shots. But Chaos decided to play it safe and just walking away.
yeah. Chaos was actually pushing there with less units, but hopefully he was thinking about camping that ramp. But it looks like uh, Wrench could have maybe followed him down there. I don't know. It depends on how the Dragoon AI ends up working. If he could just force them all down there. But still, the
Yeah.
robotics has not even finished for Chaos. So Wrench is definitely ahead on that tech. Let's see what he decides to do with his first observer. If he just sends it right to the base.
He's scouting. So when you take an observer, you don't go straight for the base. You go along the walking path to see a DT in motion. But you see him, he's
Yeah, he's
walking
doing
go
exactly
along
that.
that walking path,
Mm-hmm.
seeing how many Dragoons he has made should be the key that he doesn't have DTs yet. It costs too much gas to get all these Dragoons. But he's going to walk along. He's not going to see an expansion. And he should be realizing, oh, we're doing pretty similar kind of openings.
Yeah, and so as a result, he's queued up two Reavers at his own robotics now. And just one's finishing now.
Yeah, now you see Wrench got the Reaver, but didn't get the shuttle. This seems like a kind of play that he's planning. I want to take this expansion because if you get
Mm-hmm.
a Reaver without shovel, that is you're going to slow walk your way down, force them out of your natural, and then they have to attack into your Reaver. So that's the easy way to defend. If you want to do a Pros versus Pros and get that early expansion, you go robotics like normal. You just skip the shuttle and just have the Reaver purely as a defensive option.
So Chaos now is chasing out. He's actually killed that first observer, and he's taking his own expansion far ahead of Wrench's expansion. As Wrench did go for those first two Reavers, he's really not able to harass quite yet until this shuttle does finish. But he is moving down into his natural, looking to take that base, as you mentioned.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting order of getting the units from Wrench, getting these double Reavers, looking like he's making some kind of push, and now getting the shuttle behind it. So maybe trying to push Cass Army back, thinking, feigning an expansion, but then going into an actual big push. I'm actually curious to see how this works out. See Cass though, he's got another observer seeing exactly what's going on with this army. He doesn't have to put his units in harm's way to find out.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Chaos has really good map vision this game. He's using his pylons. He's built them around the map as kind of proxy pylons so he can scout any kind of Reaver or shuttle play. And he's also got a probe out there and some observers as well to just kind of give him vision and make sure no Reavers get past his defenses here, and he's able to just use his Dragoons to camp these narrow bridges. He's trying to go, wow, he gets the shuttle, so that's
Ooh,
brutal.
Chaos getting a big, massive lead, taking out both Reavers and the shuttle, even though, and even you can see, like, now the Dragoon count's similar, except Chaos expansion isn't started, it's done, and it's online. This is a big win for Chaos. He's got bridge control. He's got a much bigger economy game. He can do nothing at this point and just get ready to do some kind of push later, or maybe go into that Templar attack. That's the big mid game move you want to try to aim for. Is Reavers are strong, Templar are better. Let's get into Templar as soon as we can.
Hmm.
You can see Wrench feeling pressure to defend his base, still having to make Reavers, can't afford to try to get more gateways on, can't afford to try to get into that Templar tech yet. While the Chaos already working on his legs, look like he's moving forward with that plan, getting that second gas going into the mid game with a much stronger. Definitely some small things I'm waiting to see who does first, and I already see from Chaos, the one I was thinking of in particular, he's working on that force to start getting weapons upgrade. So, what do you think of what we're dealing with right now? We actually got both Protosses with two bases. They didn't cheese each other. It's like a stable game that can go on for quite a while. Have you seen a lot of Protoss which Protoss actually gets to this?
You know, I have seen some where they get to basically max, and it looks a lot like SC2. They're kind of just running around with their big balls, and they're trying to get to, like, Templars. Yeah, like you said, Templar and Speed Zealots, and then even Archons being added in. And it's all about kind of what composition you do. And really, they stopped building Reavers from what I've seen.
Once you get into Templar tech, yeah, you kind of stop building Reavers because they just don't do enough. Because everything like a Reaver is going to do with a Scarab, you're going to get the same thing with a Storm, except the Storm
Hmm.
hits much bigger area and there's no travel time. It doesn't miss 50% of the time for no freaking reason.
It's not 50%, is it?
Listen, you don't play for
I
us.
don't.
You
I
don't
don't know
know.
exactly. It
You
seems like every
don't
time they
know
hit.
how often. I think it misses based on how much you hope it hits.
Yeah. How much damage it can potentially do that is more likely to miss.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I like the joke I make is like if you know it's gonna hit and do its job, it'll hit. But if you're like, please, please, just this one, it's missing. It's 100% missing if you hope it hits instead of knowing it's gonna hit. You see this very careful positioning for both players with their
Yes.
observers, trying to establish a little bit of map control
It's a
and get
little
things
cat and
going.
mouse game going on with these observers.
Yeah, Chaos making the next move for.
Does Chaos already have Storm? I see he's got double forges right now.
Instead of needing two volleys from five, I think you can get away with two volleys from four. Or no, not quite. I don't know. It's still helpful though.
Two volleys from four kills a siege tank, I'm pretty sure. Two goons. Yeah, they have more health than siege tanks. Yeah, these observers getting picked off for both sides now.
I would definitely love to see Chaos in this position. He's poking in with observers. He sees what kind of army comp. If he
Wow,
took that
here's the
third base a lot
push.
earlier, I think he's in a good spot. Don't give up the bridge control here, though. This is so
Yeah.
hard to push across this bridge. He's just giving it up.
Yeah, he did give it up, but he's still hitting him as the army's kind of filtering in. Here's the storms going down. Good storms on those dragoons.
Chaos coming ahead so far in the fight, but if he doesn't kill that Reaver, this could easily switch.
And he does target down that Reaver, but there's a good amount of speed zealots out here, forcing these goons back.
Yeah, if Chaos stayed entrenched in his position, arced around those double bridges, so the
Hmm.
Dragoons are firing as he tried to walk through, then he can't fight with the whole army. But walking away and giving him space to actually travel the bridge, that definitely cost him that fight severely. He was up about 20 supply, and now he's down.
Yeah, I
So
believe.
despite having the tech advantage and the upgraded advantage, just the bad engagement and letting the Reaver fire a little too long definitely threw him in a bad spot. And now positions reversed. Wrench is in
Yes.
the exact same position.
It's like, okay, this is exciting. They've switched positions now. The Protoss did take that battle suboptimally. I believe Chaos, like you said, he was trying to camp the ramp, but he should have engaged a little bit quicker. He might have been waiting for reinforcements. I'm not sure,
I
but
don't even think Chaos had to engage. It's just he needed to not retreat from that position. Although I do like what Cass has already set up to do. He's getting units ready for the bridges, but also the high ground pod to actually pinch her in an attack that you can't just cover with one good position. Definitely an interesting PvP though. Despite being a little bit low action, there's a lot of tension just in the positioning, and both players willing to take this into a later macro game, which I'll tell you personally, I don't have a lot of experience. If we're going past like 150 food, I don't know what to do.
hmm.
And you can see like Wretch, his main is already mined out. Chaos's main, very close to being mined out. This is
Yeah.
a situation I think you need to actually get practice in, and these games just typically don't go this long.
Well, it's interesting the compositions they're going for. It looks like Wrench is adding on a lot of Dragoons. He's adding on a few Templar. Maybe there's a misrallied gateway. This Dragoon is in enemy territory. Um, but I would say Chaos is adding in more Zealots, which I think Zealots are harder to storm against. But we'll see
Well,
how this
the
engagement goes
big
on.
thing, the big thing why you want a lot of speed zealots in this later game army, you need enough dragoons to fire and do the damage. But speed zealots run up to dragoons. A zealot will be a dragoon straight up, like no micro involved.
Hmm.
But a speed zealot is going to walk through all that stuff, and it has the benefit that dragoons do half damage to zealots. So you walk up in their face, you might be able to dodge storms a little better. Reavers might be effective a little bit differently, but the fact that you're putting so much pressure on their dragoon army and how they have to position will let your dragoons free fire a lot easier. But I think this is kind of the end of what you're going to see mostly from Protoss Tech. You don't see a lot of the air units from the
Yeah.
Protoss side in this kind of matchup. It usually is just these core gateway units.
I've seen
Although
Arbiters,
this
but that's pretty much it, yeah. Very rarely.
Yeah, that's a big investment again to arbiters that you could be spending on a couple more dragoons.
Yeah, true.
And in the very like a roundabout way, this kind of at this kind of stage looks a bit like a TVT, where it's just about positioning your army, restricting what your opponent is doing, and then just making sure you keep their economy in check. So
Hmm.
you can think of it in the same way, where the dragoons are like fair siege tanks.
Fair siege tanks, okay. Siege tanks you don't have to micro. That's how I would refer to
Like you can micro a dragoon, get out of here.
them. Yeah, but you don't have to. That's the thing. Siege tanks, you have to siege them. You have to micro them a little bit. Dragoons, you can just kind of A move them. They'll do their job.
Yeah, that's truer than I want it to be. That's okay. I do like the position these guys are in. They're both just willing to keep expanding. I wish there was a little bit more observer seeing the expansion timing in particular, just to get an idea of what's going on. But both players realizing neither are at a big advantage, and a good way to lose this fast is just take one bad engagement, lose a bunch of your stuff to storms. Because again, like even though there's a ton of gateways in the mange from both players, if you lose your army and you have to build back up, if you're behind a production cycle, that's just a very big uphill battle. There's no big micro unit to climb your way out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just want a lot of stuff, and as we see here, both these players have maxed out. So maybe now they'll start going for higher tech, but we see they're both taking their fourth bases. Right now it's saturated for Wrench. I don't think it is for Chaos just quite yet. He's kind of being torn between defending his natural and defending that mineral only or that ramp. I think he should get on top of that high position, and then he could try to uh, run down from the high
If you,
ground.
yeah, you can see up in the natural or wrench though, there's a drop of some high Templar forcing the probes away from the natural. This is the kind of stuff you need to do to get the opponent to move their army in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to just get wrench to like retreat just a little bit. If he sees it with a probe or an observer, then he gets in the middle of the map instead of having to cross these bridges or ramps.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is a lot about multitasking and map awareness right now, which I believe Chaos has shown pretty good map awareness that he's got these pylons kind of around the map, protecting in case any drops do come out.
Yeah. The one thing I would want to see from Cass now, it looks like he's going to finally pull the trigger. He has even though they're both max, he does have a very substantial upgrade advantage, but he's not utilizing it.
Yeah, let's see if they get in a fight here. Kind of half of his army
Looks
is
like they are.
behind, but it looks like
Yeah,
they are
missed
going
time in the
for an
engage a bit.
engagement. Yeah, his army is kind of disjointed here. Getting some storms off, though.
Yeah, very good storms on the purple clumps of dragoons, turning them into blue.
And Chaos forced to retreat here. He kind of did not engage with all of his army at once.
Yeah, I think that was just being a little reckless with how he went in with that, going in at the wrong time. If he just took that in a straight up fight, he had more surrounding area. He got some good storms early, but it was just fighting with, I'm going to use this third of the army. You kill them, well, the second one just arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Just not putting himself in the position to actually win the fight.
Yeah, now
And
Wrench has moved
this
into a
unfortunately,
commanding position here on
yeah,
top of this ramp. It's going to be very hard to hold him off.
yeah, this is going to be very difficult to get out of, especially since he is inches away from storming all those probes.
Yep, there goes one storm down on the line. Oh, and another big storm on those probes. There's a lot
Although
of zealots here.
Wrench having to, yeah, like I said, the speed zealots will beat dragoons. So once you are just dragoons, if you have to deal with speed zealots, you need to retreat like Wrench is doing now. So even though he did get a lot of damage done to that expansion, you see Chaos back ahead on supply took a pretty good fight.
There's some storms going down, looking very effective though.
Yeah, I think Chaos is just looking for his opportunity to get something done. Because if you look, that shuttle with one High Templar still just hanging out by Wrench's natural. And that is a lot of probes just ready to explode.
Well, the probes are just idle right now. He must have misclicked them or
Oh,
something. Oh,
you
here's the
see this High
drop.
Templar moving.
This could be a good storm. Oh, the probes
Come on,
react.
come on.
The High Templar does not react. Oh, and it just gets out of there. So that was a fake.
That makes no sense. you move the shuttle. You just dropped
Dude,
the
he was
unit. How
baiting
are you
him.
not watching your High
he,
Templar?
he didn't have a storm. He was just making them run. That's what it was. I
I
don't know
got
why. I don't know
180
why that
energy.
happened.
I don't want to storm. I just want to show you I could.
Yeah, I just want to scare you enough. Oh, there he dropped it, and he did do a storm. And now he's
It,
actually surpassing this army, just running around it.
oh, he's going to catch Wrench's army out on the field by a significant amount. But some of the zealots still moving to that high ground. He's splitting his army in half.
Again, splitting it, but he is taking a good engage here. Let's see if he just falls across this ramp. Or if he decides to camp outside the ramp again.
Camping outside the ramp is a lot less effective when it's mostly zealots instead of mostly
True.
dragoons.
I agree. And when there's, you know, less AoE damage out there.
Yeah, you see him moving into that high ground pod, trying to utilize that instead.
Yeah, and his
But
storm should be very
walking these
effective
zealots
here.
into a pile of archons and the storm, like these zealots, just not going to get the job.
Let's see if he gets some storms off on the mineral line, though. Oh, it looks like his Templar get taken out there.
He's still got one.
There
He gets
goes
a
the
pretty
storm.
good storm.
Yep.
There we go. Both players, each fight is going in one player's favor, but it keeps seesawing which one gets the better advantage between if they have more zealots or more dragoons, if they stand the storm, or maybe they're not using all the units. Like these fights could definitely be going a little bit differently if both players are paying more attention to what they were actually working with. But still, very close battles, and we're still moving into this later macro game now. 5 base versus 5 base.
Mm-hmm. This is a crazy macro PvP. Yeah, we'll see who can remax the fastest. It looks like Wrench has got the advantage in that regard, and he has saturated his 5th base, while Fear Chaos is still working on that.
Yeah, also Wrench does have the advantage that you see Chaos, his natural is completely mined out, while Wrench still has a good amount of money there. So even with all the damage and stuff, because Chaos didn't really get any real damage done, he's actually in a worse spot now than Wrench is because Wrench had to play a slow. Although Wrench still not using that mineral only, maybe didn't notice the storm killed everything, or just never returned the things to avoid that. You can see Wrench's army though definitely skyrocketing in supply. It was like 10, 15 different. Now it's more than 50. I'm expecting some kind of big push of Wrench, hopefully at one of these middle or bottom right expansions to pull Chaos's army out of position.
Yeah, here's a big push coming down to the bottom right of the map. Let's see which expansion he decides to go for. Now this middle 6 o'clock expansion has a bunch of cannons there, but the army is somewhat out of position. Let's see where he decides to attack into.
I mean, this isn't like a Zerg Sim City with Sunkens. Like, Zealots will rip these cannons apart, especially if they have any Dragoons to help them out. That High Templar is going to be more of the problem. You see that Wrench is going, okay, you can have that one, moving towards that lower right base.
And just
Oh,
retreating here.
he only scouted the natural and
He's
was
gonna
like,
send a few zealots up. He'll see. He'll see.
okay.
But when he's out of position here, let's see what the other Protoss decides to do.
Yeah, the supply definitely getting a lot more evened up than earlier when Wrench had a big, almost 70 supply lead, but didn't actually force any action to make use of it. So we're going right back to that game where one bad engage, maybe not getting the concave, missing a storm. I could see either player winning a fight very handily if something goes their way properly. We see a drop over in the top right against Wrench's natural for that main space.
Yeah,
And
some pretty nice
Chaos,
storms. He's got to worry about these cannons. They might just take out his shuttle here. Yep, and the shuttle goes down.
I think Chaos is happy with this situation though, being down where he was, didn't lose his bases,
Here's
established
an
a foothold in the middle of the map, and
yeah.
now forcing a very straight up fight.
Here's another big engage. Let's see who gets the best storms here. There's a lot of Archons out there for Wrench though.
Yeah, the Archon's doing a lot of work against these Zealots. That's the unit you want to have against the Zealot heavy army. And look, the supply dropped almost evenly for both players.
Wow, this is ridiculous. What an even game we're seeing.
All right, so we see the army for Reg did get wiped, although he's been macroing behind it, just not rallied into the middle of the map. So Chaos at the moment does have that middle map control, and I'm curious what he's going to try to do with it. He knows his base is up in the top right, not a lot to defend it. He should be moving up there to punish that. Oh, I heard a Dark Templar swim.
Oh, where's this DT at then?
Chaos just mixed the DT into his regular army. A
Okay.
nice move you can do, especially if you notice with all these fights, there hasn't been observers with the army really. They've been
Yes,
dying the storms and
that could be
dying
a
the
good move.
dragoons.
Indeed, yeah. They
Definitely
they
a little
certainly add
twist
a
you
lot
can
of
add to the
DPS.
army.
Yeah. Let's see if Wrench is able to catch on to it. So far, no observer has been started.
Just curious where they're gonna go from here, because you figure at some point someone's got to try to take that next space, or you gotta be attacking to try and pincer off some of these bases, get some kind of economic damage done. Both players, even this late in the game, have been spending their money, not accumulating giant banks, but also not positioning in a way to actually get that economic advantage. It's just they're playing football. They're just throwing dudes at each other, and each side is punting, no touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that's true. Anytime one gets an advantage, they end up having to like, yeah, punt or settle for some kind of field goal that they miss or something. It's like, what's going on here?
The way they're building their unit compositions, though, I definitely like what Wrench is doing a little bit more than
Exactly. I,
Chaos.
I, I
He's
totally
mixing in
agree.
more Archons, more Templar. He's gonna be able to take these fights to this very heavy Zealot army that Chaos is
They're
throwing,
both going
not
very heavy
realizing
on
that's why he keeps
zealots.
losing a lot of these fights.
Yeah. So these Archons should be able to do a lot of damage here. Let's see how this fight ends up going. I would say a pretty nice flank here for Chaos, though. He's pulling back some of his zealots, trying to dodge some storms.
Yeah, but if you actually look at the fight, Wrench does have Dragoons adding DPS, and Chaos had none. So
Again,
the
a
fate
very
went
even
kind of
trade
even,
here.
but very.
Oh man.
I see a bunch of Templars dancing, trying to figure out if they want to morph into Archons or not.
Yeah.
So I literally have no idea who's gonna win this
Yes,
game.
me either. It seems like
This is
Wrench is ahead on
super
supply
super.
first, and then Chaos always catches up.
Yeah, and it's like you see a fight. It's like this one's even. Oh, someone won by 20, but then they didn't push further. So it's like, are we waiting for the thrown advantage, or is someone gonna finally go? Oh, I can attack now.
Yeah, are they just gonna mine out the map? Like, no one's really even attacking each other's expansions. They're just waiting, hoping the other guy mines out or something.
I will say we Chaos at the moment will have a small advantage because he is up a base now, taking that second mineral only on his side where Wrench has not. So maybe this could play into his favor moving to mid game if they keep trading 80 supply at each other.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how many bases he has saturated, though. It looks like he's finally getting some workers over the mineral only, but nothing's really mining at the natural. Just one, two guys on gas, it looks like.
Yeah, I would say actually looking around that Wrench is definitely much more saturated at his bases, although the 12 o'clock for Wrench is about to run.
Yeah, but he can just put those over to the mineral only, it looks like.
Yeah, which I mean, if I'm looking around at the bases for Chaos, and there's a lot less probe saturation. So even though these fights have been going a little bit in Wrench's favor, I'm actually starting to wonder how much more army does Chaos actually have? Because if there's so many less probes at the bases, he's got to have more army, but he's still losing these fights.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anyone's losing the fights, but I think you make a good point about who has the most probes and how is that influencing the army sizes here. And then yeah, the fights end up being very even, but no one's able to really press their advantage or they're unwilling to. So they end up just remaxing again off the same kind of compositions here.
Uh-oh. I see two probes at these middle bases, both players finally getting the idea at the same time, 33 minutes in the game. All right, I'll step past the middle of the map first. But they're going to do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Wrench is starting to
Wrench
establish
is
that
going to
base.
expand to both of them, though. Look at him.
Oh, Wrench asserting dominance.
And maybe he's suiciding some probes. I don't know what these probes are doing. The middle of the map. Okay, here's Chaos. He's getting a good surround, it looks like, with his army. He might try to force an engagement here. He's
Oh,
trying to get a
he's
nice
looking,
concave.
but
He's kind of cut
he's
off
gonna
this army.
engage a little early.
Yeah, one of his flanks was a little too early getting in there. There's a lot of storms going down from both sides. Yeah, it
This
looks like
time,
the
Wrench,
Dragoon amount from Wrench.
yeah, exactly what I was thinking is that the that Dragoon amount, making sure the entire army is doing DPS, not just the zealots that are in the front.
Yeah, that was a good engage. Now finally Wrench has an advantage. Let's see if he decides to counterattack or just remain in the middle.
I think he definitely should counterattack right now. He took won that fight very handily. He should be pushing into that bottom right section, which that you've seen where all the hits been coming from. They've been coming from the left side. There isn't a giant swell of gateways in that corner, so it's not like you're going to get pincered.
Yeah, he might be able to take out this natural on the bottom right. And he definitely stopped some probes from transferring over. Now he's trying to get up the ramp into the main. And he's getting walled by some pylons, which is a pretty nice play, but he's able to take out one and now get into the main. There's some
This seems
cannons
like the
here.
kind of blow that should be establishing in this game should be wrenches. Because if you take a look, he's
Ooh,
not that
some
he's
DTs
killing
are
a couple
coming out.
bases. Oh no.
Yeah, I agree though. This is a very good move for Wrench. Finally doing a counterattack after he gets the very good engage. And he's taking out some bases here while establishing his own behind them. This is a very nice move.
Well, even just like you think about how many bases here were actually mining, he took out half the mining bases with his attack.
Hmm.
And these both players, for how long this game has been going, have been macroing very well, keeping their money down, constantly fighting with units, not building up these ridiculous banks where taking out base might not actually do anything.
Hmm.
Although we do see Chaos finally got an arbiter, decided this is the
This is
time
the
to tech up
time.
and get a little twist.
So we're gonna need to see some observers here for the for Wrench, who he has two on the map and he's also queued up two more. But we'll see if this Arbiter is enough to kind of get some counterplay here for Chaos.
I don't think it's gonna be because even though he has the arbiter, he I don't know if he's been actually researching the spells and he doesn't have a ton of energy. So this might be one of those things where it's like it's an arbiter, but maybe a little too late because dragoons can kill arbiters very.
Hmm.
And you see Wrench surrounding this army over at that right base. This I don't think Cat's gonna get out of this one. Then he's gonna be very far behind it with army supply.
Yeah, he does get off one stasis, which was actually pretty good, but he was just so far behind in army size. Oh, and there's the good game from Chaos.
That was a game,
That
very back and
was.
forth.
Wrench earned that victory, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of situations Chaos was in a good position, just attacking with the units, but they weren't all hitting at the same time. Just kind of, I think, just doing a little 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, but not thinking, oh, this is the group of zealots. This is the one that should go first. Or not positioning them in a way where you could just rifle through it. So,
Yeah, in their defense, it was a very long and kind of unique game of getting to max and then having to control those maxed armies. So I can understand why there was some issues with the control. Both players did have very good macro, I would say. but it ended up being Wrench with the good engagements and those Dragoon numbers at the end that were able to do that DPS you were mentioning.
Yeah, I mean that's a game. As I'm watching it, I couldn't even like omnipotent seeing the whole thing. I'm like, this maybe do this. I don't even know because it's such a weird situation to get into that late of a PvP with that even of a scenario where they have these similar armies, similar economies, and they're kind of just trading units back and forth. I don't know what the play is to get out of that into a different style of game. Very interesting situation that you just don't see super often.
Hmm. So
I
I'm
think the
gonna,
big thing
yeah.
I would take away from that is just that I think that you should have, from Wrench's side, he never tried to do any kind of shuttle harass or anything to open up the map a little bit. So I think that was definitely something that could have been a little better from Wrench. And then just with Chaos, positioning the army a little better, keeping control of the middle map, and making sure the engagements were good the way he wanted them to be, not just throwing armies, but then with the missed timing, losing a lot of stuff before the fight even begins.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to be right back for like maybe a minute, but I'll be right back. And yeah, if you want, we can just get into this next game right after that if you're ready.
I'll be ready when you get back.
All right, sounds good.
Hope everyone who's been watching has been having a good time. This has been a nice long set with a bunch of really worthwhile watching. And I'm gonna find out tomorrow if my throat can handle talking this much. Doing two casts that at work I teach a lot, so this is gonna be a lot of talking. I might wake up tomorrow and be like, uh we will see how that goes.
All right, man, you ready to get into this next game?
I'm ready for the next game. Let's keep going.
All right, let's do
StarCraft all night.
it. All night. So you're East Coast then?
I am East Coast.
Wow, you've been going at it, man. Okay, so here we have Wrench as the blue Protoss in the bottom right, and we have Flow as the uh, red Terran in the bottom left. I was gonna try to say his name again, but it's just too difficult, I think. I don't know what to say. I apologize, Flo, but it's just too hard for me.
Yeah, it's the ending. I think I can get it with the ending's weird. Like it maybe has that little French flair at the end. I'm like, I'm too American to go for this. I'm gonna fuck.
Well, it could be like Dribbler, right? Flo La Dribbler. That's what I would say. But yeah, it could be some French pronunciation too. So finally we get a PVT. Feels like we've been doing a lot of PVZ and PvP lately, but maybe it's just one game that lasted a long time.
I feel like I don't know how many games we've cast anymore because some of them have been cracking that 30-minute mark.
Yes, more than one. So that's good that we've had some long games, like you are always calling for these macro games on Circuit Breaker.
Yeah, I mean it's what you're gonna expect from these kind of things. So we had Fighting Spirit in week one. We have Circuit Breaker in week two. I mean, this is the perfect kind of stuff you're going to see in the preseason to really gauge where is everyone's starting point. Where should we be putting them
Mm-hmm.
in for the season? So I can't blame them for picking weird maps. but I hope week one is like freaking Blue Storm or something. I
Yeah,
want
Heartbreak
something
Ridge,
like,
something
you know,
good.
let's get
Yeah.
some aggro in.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of cheese in this group, or even in the last group that we've casted that I've seen anyway.
Not a ton. Maybe like some a good amount of mid game timing attacks, but not like full on cheese or anything. Which I like seeing that kind of stuff. It's cheese in the CPL is something I think people should be doing. Especially it's something you should be practicing. But for games that matter, if you're
Yeah.
cheesing in the preseason games, that is like that should be red flags. It's like, oh, this is the build you're showing. Like this is what kind of player I am.
Yeah. Well, I did a two factory in one of my games, but also I got DT
Well,
rushed
that's not.
in the
Yeah,
first
but that's not.
preseason game I played. I was
Oh
like,
god.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, but even like a two back's not a cheese. Like if you did like deep six, that's a cheese.
Yeah. I saw Relentless pull off some TVP bio play in our group. So that was pretty interesting.
Oh,
He like saw.
we should have casted that,
Oh,
man.
it already got casted.
TV
Yeah.
bio.
He
Oh,
went for
okay,
like
I got it.
massive fire bats against speed zealots, and it worked out pretty well. Fire bats and medics. It was pretty cool. It was fun to watch.
That sounds fantastic, but we're not talking about what sounds like the greatest game I've ever heard of. We're talking about this game, which might be the greatest game I've ever seen. We don't.
Yeah, we don't know yet. So here's a zealot coming out for Wrench very early to try to punish Flo. This Marine is kind of in an exposed position, and he hasn't really scouted anything from the Protoss yet, so hopefully he can react very quickly and pull this Marine back and try to get it to his Sim City. There he does react. The probe gets a shot off, but that was very good reaction time from Flo. Pulling back, oh, he better not get it trapped here. Oh, the Zealot kind of stuck there. Oh, losing that probe is very bad for the Protoss because
Well,
he
I
could use
mean,
it to try to.
did see the Terran has the building set up to micro against the Zealot. It
Exactly,
shouldn't be
so
doing much. So
it
the
looks
Zealot
like
goes
this.
straight for
Mhm.
the SEV.
Yeah, it looks like the Zealot won't do very much as a Vulture is about to pop off as well. And yeah, no kills for that Zealot. He did lose the probe, so far this has not really worked out for Wrench investing in this early Zealot. But he does have his own Dragoon and is getting range at his base, so he should be following up pretty standardly. But Flo is safe now to take an expansion, it looks like.
So I mean, there is something to say about getting that early Zealot. You hope it does damage. You hope they didn't make their buildings away or they skipped on Marines or something. But if you throw down that early Zealot, it's showing a lot of things. That's like one, you see there's the bunker game made, which you shouldn't need if you're going for this factory expand. I'll have actual units. But you also like he was in the base. He saw one factory game made, not two. He saw the gas timing when if things are getting pulled off. So doing this kind of zealot opening, it seems like something like, oh no, I'm trying to get some damage, but really getting the scout alone is enough.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely not too far behind from that first Zealot getting repelled. He didn't lose it, and he's able to scout, like you mentioned, and see the Terrans taking his expansion at normal timing, and he's pretty much safe to take his own expansion. There was a bit of danger with that first Vulture, but he was able to block it in a pretty nice move from getting up his ramp, and so it only has 5 HP now, and it's kind of retreated up to the top right of the map. He better be careful with his Dragoon now getting taken out by that tank, but he was able to do a lot of damage to that bunker.
I mean, it's never going to do anything terribly substantial if you only do one dragoon. So the fact he didn't have the other ones join it to keep harassing that bunker until the siege tank came out, so maybe something that you could be a little more effective on to put pressure on the Terran. Because if you're taking SCVs off mining time, they're spending time actually repairing the bunker. It's free damage, so you might as well take it.
Yeah, I agree. That can be very frustrating as Terran to try to repair that bunker throughout the early game. But I think that initial Dragoon that initial Vulture that Flo built was able to delay the Dragoons enough so he didn't have to repair it so much. So I think that was a good play from Flo. Now he's going to have to repair this Rax, unfortunately. But he hasn't taken too much damage for these original Dragoons, and now he's got Siege mode ready. So he's going to be able to force these goons off.
I still like the wrench poking in until the absolute time where it's like, all right, it's done, and that's when siege mode is there. That's when you gotta just say, all right, we're done. I'll go take my third base now. But you see that vulture killed the probe, delayed
Yes.
it, and maybe Wrench doesn't notice that right away, but he already has Dragoon walking up to go kill it. But still,
Yeah.
small delays is enough.
That was a good play for the Vulture. Unfortunately, it's going to die right here. It may have even died to that probe considering it only has 5 HP, but it's definitely not going to last long against this goon. He just basically zaps it.
So I'm looking at what we're seeing from the Terran player. He's got two factories, kind of just building up his economy. When will we see that plan of? Is it going to be a big two base push, or are we looking like when would he be acting on more factories or armories to get into the next step of his plan?
Well, we've just seen some scans go down, so he should scan. What I like to do is scan the gateways and then scan the third. So if he sees this third timing, which is pretty early off only 2 gateways, he could throw down some more factories and do an attack, but it looks like he's building his own third. So he sees the Protoss expanding and decides to just take his own expansion, which could be an effective play here. He's also getting his own armory, so it looks like he's moving more towards the late game as he does have those double engine machine shops to try to pump out as many tanks as he can and build up that tank count early. We're seeing some vultures move by to try to do a run by, but they're pretty much getting chased by these dragoons, and it doesn't look like they're going to be that effective this early on. And they don't have mines from the looks of it.
So they will have mines soon. Even if they could just spend a little time mining some of these expansions, forcing the observer to come out and clear them out. If you just know it's three base first, what will
Oh,
soon be three base, I think Terran's in a very comfortable spot.
yeah, I agree. Losing those 3 vultures, though, kind of for nothing, is kind of a detriment here for the Terran. It would have been nice if he did put some mines out on the map, as mines has just now finished, but he only really has siege tanks now. So unfortunately, he's going to be kind of in the dark as far as the Protoss expansion count and army movement, at least for the time being. But he is able to take his own third, so we should see, a lot more factories getting added on here pretty soon, as well as continuing with those upgrades.
Yeah. And if you see from Wrench, he added on a bunch more gateways. He's getting Zealot Legs, which is near completion. And he's getting Templar Archives, but he didn't start the Stargate with the Templar Archives, which is usually the signal that it's going to be an Arbiter play. So it seems like he's just going up to a big gateway army to control the map and take more expansions rather than really doing some kind of big three base play.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Wrench is again banking so much gas, and he took his third gas very soon here. So I wonder what he's gonna got planned for us with all this gas that he's kind of accumulating, and he is already taking his fourth.
Well, so there's the Stargate now. So just getting the extra base up before he goes into the Arbiters. So, I mean, this is definitely a good play to go for. If you're banking up a lot of gas, Arbiters is a very gas expensive unit, and getting Templars in Storm so you can fight a push. But he's trying to set up that economy up before really, instead of trying to force an issue with some kind of three base play that you have to get something done. Although Flow with this Vulture up in the top right being very annoying. That Nexus will get up, but it ain't gonna do much unless he clears out. So he's just giving up that middle map control. This would be a chance for Flow to get some mines to the map, but he's not being active with the Vultures.
Ooh, that was brutal. So there's some mines going off now on the dragoons who did not wait for their observer. So this has been good harassed by Flo with his single vultures right now, and he's able to see that fourth timing and even take out a probe and a dragoon there. So this is a good trade for this vulture, and kind of exactly what he needs to be doing now, which is checking around the bases, doing a little bit of harassment, seeing if he can get a probe here and there, as well as macroing up at home. And he's got 6 factories now, and he's adding in a lot of tanks to his composition, as well as getting that
It,
starport so he can go for his upgrades.
yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Seeing that starport finish, looks like he's going to be going into maybe that standard kind of +2 attack, big giant push off these three bases. Not really worrying about taking that fourth base down the middle, realizing, oh, I'm doing in a good spot macro wise. I want to do some damage before everything kicks in. And you can see Wrench planning for that kind of thing, seeing that there might be a big push he needs to worry about. He's getting arbiters, but immediately getting stasis instead of a recall immediately.
Nice catch by Flo to get some of these probes that are transferring, and there's no real cannons defending this fourth base, so he's going to lay some mines and try to get in there and kill these probes, which he's hidden. Let's see, right now he's targeting this cannon. He's killing some probes. Let's see if he even sees these probes, which have been hidden over here in the corner. Yeah, he does get them. So this has been good harassment here with this these vultures. Hopefully he's able to run some of them out of here. Oh, they do get blocked by these goons. But
Yeah,
this
this is
is
gonna be
good
a lot
harass.
of vultures to lose. So I wish I would see another play from Flo while the Dragoons are busy up the top doing something, maybe at the natural or poking at third base, just to see what's going on, get a little more map control.
Yeah, that being said, Flo has a lot of minerals and very low on gas, considering he has not taken his third gas yet. So I think that's why he's willing to be so aggressive with these vultures, as we saw in the other game that Flo played. And look, he's might be able to catch even an additional probe transfer here. Let's see how many he's
This
able to
is
kill.
brutal. This is not right.
This is how I like to play Terran. I like to see these vultures out on the map. So this is good play from Flo. He is moving around in very big groups of vultures. So, like you said, losing that one group of, I think it was like 12 vultures, can kind of set you back as the Terran if you're not doing another attack with it. But so far, he's been pretty effective, and he's able to slow down the Protoss, who is actually now taking his fifth base in the top right. But
Yeah, I
Flo is.
still like
Mhm.
Flo that he's getting his upgrades, really trying to establish himself on the map and not doing these giant committal attacks that could go really wrong, but just doing enough to be like, no, I'm gonna make sure you're using your APM, you're using your army in positions. You're not just parking them outside your natural until you get this force you want to attack with.
Mhm.
Although this attack might go very well for Wrench, a good opportunity to stasis a lot of tanks, but not doing it.
Well, he does not have the
Just
energy right now. He's only at 90,
yeah.
but he does catch these tanks in kind of a bad position. I don't know if there's really been a scan going off here. Oh, there is a scan now.
No, this is
Um,
also a turret that's detecting
ooh, there
also.
you go. But yeah, these
But
tanks
without
kind
the
of in a
vultures, yeah,
risky position
the
here.
tanks are a problem.
And he didn't really bring his whole army. There's still like 7 tanks back at his natural. So if he had brought those, I think this would have gone a lot better for Flo. Even so, this is a good position to be sieging up in. And he's taken his fourth base, that gas which is in between his base and the Protoss. If he can get up on this high ground and move out of this low ground ramp, he'll be in a pretty commanding position for this game. But it's a matter of time before the Protoss decides to uh, try to bust this again and do another big attack. It looks like he did lose that first Arbiter to that turret. So that's kind of
Yeah,
a
it
big
definitely looks
play,
like there's
as it
also a
wasn't able.
couple of
Mhm.
Goliaths mixed in with that army. So, yeah, he's a little aggressive for positioning the Arbiter forward. He's going to make another one while Terran is researching EMP and getting some vessels ready to counter the Arbiter attack.
I don't know if Terran has another armory, but it looks like it's not going for the +2, which is definitely a mistake here. You want to get that +2 attack as soon as you can. Here come the Dragoons. He's trying to do another bust out here. Flo is microing back his tanks, but there's a lot of mines in here. Oh, wow, what a mine attack. So that mine drag killed a lot of Flo's units, unfortunately for him. Still, he's able
Uh,
to hold on to this position, potentially on the top of this cliff, and he does have a group of tanks reinforcing here.
Yeah, that was definitely a good attack by Wrench, though, to make use of the Zealots in particular. That's a good way to
Mm-hmm.
break these kind of siege lines. There isn't just a giant wall of vultures to eat them up. They'll definitely get to the tanks. Hopefully, bringing mines with them, but even if they just get in that minimum range of a siege, that they can start going through the things. You don't want to just go mass dragoons. You need a lot of zealots that actually lets you get the push moving forward.
Yeah, I would also like to see a science vessel out here for Flo, as well as kind of just grouping his army all the way together. These vultures up here in the top right, if they were with the tanks, it would be a lot harder for him to get those zealots in on the tanks and do those mine drags. So hopefully we can see that here. It looks like the vultures are trying to do some harassment, but I think they need to be supporting these tanks because again, it looks like these tanks are going to get a stasis off on them, and now the zealots are right at the tanks. And there's only really a few vultures here, which is not enough to stop this big Protoss push which is coming down.
Absolutely. Does have a science vessel, and he did research EMP, but the science vessel is chilling by his mineral only. So even though he has an important piece of tech, maybe forgetting a rally point, just putting him in a bad spot, not utilizing all the tools.
Yeah.
But Wrench controlling that high ground pod that they've been testing for a while now should be able to make this easier to stop these attacks from this lower base and maybe break out from his natural, get more into the middle of the map.
Yeah, there goes those tanks. They do take out, looks like 3 Dragoons, but definitely a good trade for the Protoss with that stasis. And now he is moving towards the middle of the map as the
Yeah,
Terran
I think
continues.
that before that big exchange, the supplies were near max and fairly even for both sides, and now Wrench with a pretty commanding supply lead, taking a very good fight there because he had the spells needed, got a very good stasis, deciding this is the way I need to take this fight. This I need to position my units, and doing a good job.
Yeah, that was good Arbiter control there with the stasis, and he did have good Arbiter timing that I think it has helped him be a force multiplier down here in this repeated battles in the bottom right. We see some vultures going up to the top right, but it doesn't look like they're going to be too effective as there is basically a wall of cannons to stop any kind of vulture harass. He's now moving down here and getting hit by a lot of mines in the bottom right, but he just has so many units, he might try to force this open even with the mines here. He's pulling back some of his army to block these vultures. Um,
Yeah, I think this is a spot if you're gonna make a move as per us. This is a good time to do it. There's no supply depot walls. There wasn't a lot of tanks on the low ground, and moving from that high ground down into that area, the siege tanks have the mischance. You could definitely put some pressure on that lower base until he walls it off.
yeah, I agree. Seeing what we saw there, it was a good time for the Protoss to attack with no supply depot wall. It looks like Flo is opting not to build a supply depot wall so he can be aggressive down there on the bottom right.
I
But
mean, Wrench is catching a good chunk of army in the middle of the map, getting a
true.
lot of pressure on the middle of the map moving forward. Although the
Yeah.
science vessel dies, but it hits the EMP right before Arbiter, just sitting around, basically just being a cloak giver and nothing.
And now Flo is trying to expand to this middle base.
But you see Wrench, the moment he took control of that map, he's immediately checking the expansions that he wasn't able to check before. Although that one in the top left might go unscouted for a while because that's kind of a weird spot for Terra to expand to.
As the game goes on, these vultures become a lot less effective during their run-bys. He does have a lot of mines out here, but it looks like he's going to lose another group of vultures here, which you really can't afford as Terran, I think. He is
I,
expanding to this top left base, which so far has not been scouted, so maybe that's a way he can improve his economy because it looks like it's hard for him to take a fifth base right now.
Yeah, I'm curious what Wrench is going to do in this spot. He's moving this army around, making sure he has control and not losing at this top right basis to some kind of run by. But you see, he's near max when banking a lot of minerals. He should be slamming down a ton of gateways, getting his macro ready for the remax, and maybe forcing some engagements down that middle base where the high ground can help him break through these siege tank lines.
Yeah, it looks like he is moving on to that high ground, and with Cloak here, the tanks are totally unable to use their range, and now they're getting attack. They're attacking uphill into these Dragoons, so this could be a brutal attack here from the Protoss.
Yeah, Terran forcing to use a lot of scans to fight through this Arbiter cloak, but still getting a halfway decent trade with these. But now the siege tanks are starting to whittle down. This Dragoon should be able to push down into that fourth base and take it if he keeps attacking.
Yeah, that was a nice storm, but he has kind of decided not to attack, even though he really only sees one tank that's not under stasis. And he has so much minerals and gas, like you were saying. It really seems like why not do an attack here? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
if you're trading dragoons for these siege tanks, and you have what you look at the main that's more than 10 gateways, and you look at the upper right that's almost 10 gateways, you should be trading units aggressively because you're gonna get build them again faster. It's not like the Terran has 20 factories to match your gate.
Yeah, well, now he has remaxed and he's going in again with a bunch of zealots to lead the way. He loses that arbiter, but this just looks like an overwhelming amount of units here.
I mean, we got a defense matrix. We'll buy a little bit of time, but yeah, this should be an overwhelming amount of dragoons, forcing him out of this middle base. The big thing keeping Flow in a good spot this game is that upper left that's still unscouted and probably going to stay unscouted for a long time. What I would like to see from Wrench here behind this, even though he has a ton of money, is maybe setting up that next base or at least scouting around to keep an eye that Terran is still only on the 4. Because he has waited out. The main is mined out, the natural's mined out. If you can keep him on a mineral only, you know you're going to be in a good spot. So Terran has to be taking out a base, and Wrench should be really aggressively making sure he stops that from happening.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe that's what these zealots are sent out here to do, is to try to scout for enemy bases.
You see him moving up there now, and I don't know what Flo's going to be doing about this.
Well, he's sending all his vultures to deal with it, which vultures are very effective against these zealots. But yeah, now that he knows there's this base, he's moving his whole army over there to deal with it. And yeah, it's going to be really hard for Flo to hold on here. Flo's actually transferring away a lot of SCVs, but they might just get massacred as they move here.
Yeah, I
Oh, he
actually
stasis the SCVs transfer.
that
Wow.
bad manner.
Yeah,
That
that
is
is somewhat
bad.
bad manner, I think. Anyway, we'll see what kind of move that was about. Oh,
Although that should have signaled something pretty significant. If you're running these SCVs away to the upper middle,
yeah, he
he didn't
stasis more
scout that base yet
SCVs.
either, but that basically gave the base away that there's a base up in the
It did, yeah. So let's see if he moves over there after he takes out this base.
another freaking stasis for these SCVs and
Yeah,
taking that nexus in that natural position while before he even cleaned up that base.
yeah.
Although Flo's moving on the map with a pretty scary Terran force, even though it's not maxed out, you still have to respect the strength of siege tanks with their.
And he has gotten those upgrades, so he is at 2-1 now. So that is pretty dangerous. But let's see if he, yeah, realizes where those SCVs were going. It looks like he's totally forgotten about them right now and not moving towards that base, but instead trying to move in on this entrenched Terran position, which is not going so well right now.
There's no zealots to help bolster his way through these
And there's a lot of vultures
mines.
out there too, laying tons of
Yeah,
mines.
this is the kind of spot that if you weren't on the outskirts of the map trying to stop expansions, I wouldn't be seeing recalls. And we still haven't seen any significant recalls into the main or into one of the bases to pull the army around to make the Terran unentrench these siege tanks so before he loses some very critical damage. So I'm looking at this spot here. I'm ignoring that 12 o'clock expansion because I assume it's going to get found and taken out eventually. But I'm hoping Flow reestablishes that bottom base and that left base, moving into some more gas bases because he has a decent gas buildup. But look at his money; it's almost broke.
Hmm. Yeah, and he's really not mining off anything but that mineral only, which will get mined out very soon.
Yeah, so this is why I wish Wrench was being really proactive about killing bases and keeping the money down.
Oh,
Because if
nice
he knows like
stasis.
they're absolutely. Anytime you stasis tanks on the high ground, that just feels like Christmas. Because it stasis is great on its own, but oh, you're in your favorite place to be, and now you can't do anything. That's tanks deserve it.
Well, he ran up that ramp into the entire Terran army and still took it out, so looks like the Protoss is in a very commanding position here in this game. He still has not found out about this 12 o'clock base, but I'm assuming he will eventually. It seems very strange, but the Flo has managed to set up this base over here at 9 o'clock, so that's at least something he's got going for him as far as mining. Yeah, and all these tanks get taken out relatively easily there.
Yeah, I mean, it's still just going to be a difficult situation with Flow. With this little amount of minerals, he has to be very careful about what units he makes and how he's throwing them away. If he's losing vultures to random groups like this, he can't be affording to do that anymore like he could in the early.
Yeah, he also needs to transfer some of his workers over to the top side of that mineral patch because they're not going to do it by themselves, which is really unfortunate. But he's only got one guy mining those top four, and he's got, you know,
I've never noticed that before. That's
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah, it looks like 17 mining the bottom one. So that's something that unfortunately just takes a little bit of micro, but if you can manage the multitasking, it's totally worth it, especially when you're on this few bases.
You see, even down at the bottom, Flow's starting to long distance mine that bottom base instead of flying a command center over to it. It looks like he's just not being very proactive about trying to take bases back after he lost them. When he got into that situation where he was put down on just the mineral only, it was more Wrench not scouting his bases, not him using his army to establish the base.
Well, his tanks with defense matrix are trading okay with these goons, but here comes a bunch of zealots to reinforce. And we'll see if Terran has enough units to kind of hold on to this position, because if not, he really is mining on very few bases.
Yeah, you saw that tank with the D matrix die to a spider mine. Won't it doesn't do enough to stop that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, D matrix needs to be stronger. That's what I'm learning from that.
Yeah, that's it. Mm. Hey, this is why Pro-S is a fun race. We give you a shield. It gives you invulnerability.
I
You
know,
just
and it
gotta take a break
recharges
from
with 0 micro.
it.
It's just like, yeah, you want units that have health that comes back? Like, play Protoss.
I mean, so I'm still looking at the situation. Wrench still macroing as best he can. He has a giant bank, but at this point, just the way the game's going, it's not going to whittle down. He's still just making sure he has the right unit to deal with these armies. Still looks like he's keeping an eye on the middle of the map so he keeps control, but he's still not scouting his expansions. You can see Flo taking that top left again.
Yeah, and he's long distance mining here from the bottom right, which is very interesting. Or from the bottom middle. But yeah, if anything we learn from these games, it should be scout the expansions because people like to take ninja expansions. You got to be ready for that, man. It's kind of a way.
Yeah,
If the game is getting prolonged like this and you have so many minerals, why not invest some in, an observer? His observer is just right off the path of finding that base.
yeah. I mean, we see this giant army from Wrench though drilling straight to the left, forcing Flo to move out his stuff, and he's probably gonna have to sacrifice that middle left base if Wrench wants to go for it. You see, though, Flo is just trying to run from these speed zealots, but they're fast. They're track stars. You
Yeah,
can't escape
you
these guys.
can't escape these. He is on top of the ramp, so he will trade as effectively as he can. Some of those tanks getting a little mismoved there. But it looks like this is just overwhelming Protoss. And yeah, he's not even going towards that expansion, instead just deciding to take out this army here. But
I
we'll
think that's
see.
a good way to attack this kind of situation. If you know there's a big chunk of army that's out of position, killing it off, forcing the Terran to rebuild it, that he can kill the expansions afterwards. I'm just glad he's actually being a little more proactive on the map with getting things done, whether it's putting pressure on the bases or maybe chunks of army that are out of position. Or, just watching a bunch of pros units explode siege tanks and spider mines.
Well, I think this is an example of why you should go for those bases because really he's trading very well with the Protoss. I mean with the Terran, but he's not taking out any of the bases. So we're just getting this kind of back and forth tug of war type battle going on. He does kind of slow down this mining here at the bottom middle, and he has taken out those forces in the middle left. Hopefully he can just overwhelm that base. Still the the 12 o'clock base is still mining here for the Terran. It looks like he might even mine out. And he has finally transferred some workers over to that top of the mineral line. So there he is finally mining effectively from that middle base. So actually, if we look at it, Protoss is pretty much mined out. He does have tons of minerals, but he's pretty much mined out except for that mineral only. And the Terran is still mining on two bases. So,
I mean, this might be the thing that like the kick wrench needs to be like, oh, I should go take that 12 o'clock. Oh my
yes,
god, there's a base here.
and any time now he's going to think about taking that base. He might even expand to the top left as well. But as soon as
Still would
here's
have
an
still
observer
in
moving
this.
into position, so the game is up here. I think the jig is up. He sees this
It
base.
seemed like it.
Yeah,
Yeah, the one thing I wish that Wrench did, which we had a long game and he had Arbortech for a long time, no recalls
yeah,
at all
and there wasn't a
anywhere to
ton of
open up a
recall
base to
defenses.
kill production. Nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I would have liked to see a recall. He was very effective with his stasis, but I think recall would have totally helped end this game faster.
Yeah, especially if you're in the situation where you're floating a ton of money. You know, it's a great way to throw away like $2,000 of zealots. Throw them in the Terran base.
Yeah, and make the Terran deal with them. You don't even have to look at them anymore.
You see this group up at the top right. It seems like the last resistance getting completely
Uh-huh.
collapsed on. I think this might signal the end of
Yeah.
things very soon.
This is the last stand here for the Terran, it looks like. He's got a lot of units on this high ground, but they're just getting overwhelmed here by this Dragoon count from the bottom.
I mean, I'll definitely give credit to Flo for staying in that game longer than I thought he should have. Trying to do, even if it's like a little cheesy or dirty, like taking these sneak bases, not losing his cool, trying to keep the map pressure in the middle or keep Protoss like occupied. Definitely doing the things you need. That if you're in a tight game, you're like, no, 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 I gotta win this. You gotta stay calm and just have some kind of plan where it's like, this might be an edge that you can do.
Yeah, I agree. Flo really did show some resistance there and took a lot of hidden bases, which helped him out. And they're kind of a low investment if you think about how effective they were for him.
Yeah, I think this we had a couple games, definitely an example both from both sides. Taking expansions in the spot you're not supposed to might give you a lot of advantages that you might not be used to. So you should be scattering around to make sure that's not happening to you, and you should consider it if they're in a bad spot. Don't just try to do a desperation attack. Just be like, maybe I'll get away with this.
Yeah, I agree. There could be a lot to learn from those kind of moves, I think.
That's one of my favorite things about watching these CPL games. Is there's definitely a lot you can learn from. I see situations I'm thrown in all the time, and I can watch it in a replay and be like, "Oh, this is what you should do." How come I don't think that when I play?
I think another advantage is at least, yeah, seeing your opponents and finding out, okay, this is how he likes to play. This is what, um, this is the kind of expansions he likes to take.
Yeah, we're gonna not low key talk about that or the access to the replay folder.
Yes, the replay folder, of course. So here we see a game between Wrench in the top right, and we see Quad in the top left here. Quad is the
I
blue
want to
Zerg.
see this
Yeah.
crazy. I want to see this crazy ultra. Let's get 5 bases super fast build again.
Yes, let's
That was
see.
wild. I would love to see if that was a one-off thing or that's his play. I love watching this matchup on this map. Zerg has a little bit in my mind. He has a little bit of a favor because they have the units are just so good at clogging up these bridges and ramps that are all over the
Hmm.
place. And there's so many gas expansions that are easy to take. I think that favors Zerg to get their game plan moving. but there's a lot of open area in the middle. There's things you can play around, so there's definitely a good opportunity for pros to get a good mid game army, especially with Storm. Like it's not just like I'm trying to tack up this ramp on Fighting Spirit. You can kind of play around. There's some like bases that you attack down a ramp that make it harder to defend. It's just there's much more dynamic mid game.
Yeah, I think on Fighting Spirit, you can take three bases pretty easily, but then it's taking that fourth that kind of becomes difficult. Until, yeah, someone sets up a fourth in the main or something like that, and then it does become really hard
Oh,
to punish.
so we saw Quad going for that hatchery first, like he did before,
Hmm.
but it was getting blocked for a pretty significant. You even see it that he got the hatchery, and it's about the same like progress done as the spawning pool. Actually, I think he might have had to get the spawning pool and at the same time because I saw the minerals build up quite a bit. This is why if you're gonna be, I need the hatch first. I need to get down. Bring that second drone with you so you can poke
Hmm.
that probe. Make sure you can get that hatchery going, or just take it at another base.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Here we see he is taking a third hatchery again at that gas expansion in the middle. So this is before even knowing where the Protoss spawns, I think. So we are seeing similar from last game for Quad that he isn't taking gas. He's building these six lings and he's expanding down the map to another gas expansion.
All right, so this could actually be a problem if he finds out where the process is with these six links. One cannon, like six links could kill the cannon. They can also run by the cannon, only lose a couple, and then you're in the main with no defense. So I'm curious to see how Quad reacts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he chooses to do. As this gateway is pretty late, there won't be a zealot out for a little while, so he can just do a run by, or he could even try to focus down this cannon with his initial lings.
I think he's going to go in for the cannon.
Oh, and he just loses one.
Never mind. Once
Yeah,
you lose one,
that's the
the
way it
fact that he
goes.
lost one is fine, but the fact that he backed off after losing it, that signals we're done. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
They see the Zell production is already underway. Looks like Wrench is going to get into that normal kind of forward expand situation he wants to be in. So let's see if how Quad responds, which last time took a lot of bases and didn't get that gas. And you can see, I think he's planning to do the same thing. Got the fourth hatchery at the natural, still hasn't taken a gas. I'm expecting him to take another base once he kills that probe with the leg.
Yeah, his link's being attacked now by some zealots, but we will see how Quad decides to follow this up if he is just going to take another expansion.
Oh, we got that fifth hatchery up at the third base. He's just took that gas afterwards. I think we're gonna see the same kind of game again. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's see if he moves into Ultralisk really fast too. That would be interesting.
Now the big deviation being when he quad did this against our other Protoss player in his group, he the Protoss player went for that Stargate, but Wrench is doing the same build he did against Sunshine with that
Yeah.
Citadel and skipping the Stargate. So I wonder if this might have a push that might hit at a time before all these extra hatcheries of production really kick.
Yeah, you might be right about that. It is that speed zealot +1 push coming out here from the Protoss player. So we'll see if Quad's able to recognize it and react in time. He should see the +1 going, and there is quite a bank of zealots being produced. So that should be his cue to kind of either build some sunkens, which he does have a sunken at each expansion so far, or just mass up on the Hydralisks. So we'll see how he decides to react here.
Yeah, so a big thing Zerg can do in this situation to stop these things, you can see that he's building his buildings around that sunken, making it very difficult for zealots to actually get damage on it. That helps you live a lot longer through these kind of zealot attacks. So if he keeps links at the front to see when they move out, and the big thing he should be looking for is I haven't seen a Corsair yet. If you don't see that Corsair, like you build a Corsair and you immediately scout with it because you need to know is Zerg on Spire or Hydra, or did they take like a fast fourth base, or what did they do? So if you never see a Corsair, that's because they didn't build one. That means they're doing this Citadel mass gateway thing. So it's that absence of seeing us that you don't have to see what's in his base. If you don't see the Corsair, you know what he's trying to do, even if you never saw it.
Interesting. That's great advice out there to any Zerg players. Just if there's no Corsair, that means they're gonna come at you with some speed zealots, or at least they're building a lot of gateways and they don't have a Stargate. So it's like you were saying earlier that yeah, they can't have everything. So if you see one thing, you should realize something else is coming in a little bit later, or maybe even not at all. So here come the zealots though, with +1 and speed. He's got those 7 zealots. Let's see if he
And
decides to go for
Quad
the
not
main.
adding extra, he's just adding the extra creep colonies now might be a little too late. Even like, but this Sim City, like I was saying, making it very difficult for the zealots to deal with this, just effectively putting him on a timer.
Agree. This is great SimCity to buy him time. It would be nice to see a couple more Sunkens out here though. Um, but that second Sunken is hatching in here. Oh, and
That
the
I
Zealots
love
do the
this
run
from
by.
Wrench.
Yeah,
I love this because you can't move a sunken colony. This isn't StarCraft 2. These zealots are getting in the main. They're going to wreak havoc. And also see,
wow.
no spy.
Those drones should have ran out of here. They're just getting massacred right now.
Absolutely. So despite this weird opening Quad likes to do, which I think is very clever and cool, I think realizing if you don't see that Stargate, maybe there's an adaptation you need to do to prepare for this kind of. When you see like the zealots move out, especially with speed, you should
Mm-hmm.
be slamming down a couple extra creep colonies, or maybe
Yes.
throwing in more buildings, the Sim City, to make it harder for the zealots to do that run by up the ramp,
I
or
think.
just putting links on the ramp,
Mm-hmm.
something, some kind of reaction.
Even the drones from the natural being pulled to keep the zealots from getting into the main would have been a great reaction. Um, Building the second sunken a little bit faster would have helped him as well. But as it is, the zealots did get into the main and did some good damage to his drones, so he's going to have to, build up some drones from all the hatcheries he does have and try to replenish that count he has.
Now, I love this kind of stuff I'm seeing from Quad, and the group I've casted before, I've commented on this a lot. You see these lings in the middle of the map. You see it at the mineral. You see it at that middle right base. It scouts the base, sure, but like if he moves out of that Zealot Force again, you can throw units from the natural and also surround them from the back with these little pockets of links on the map that are hard to
Mm-hmm.
scout through there. That makes the links so much more effective. You actually get a surround rather than a frontal attack. So I think this is going to be a pretty dangerous thing that if French doesn't respect this as an option, he might get himself in a very bad situation with this upcoming push.
Yeah, he might even just go for a counterattack as soon as he sees some units leave. It would be
That's
nice
another very legitimate option. Absolutely.
for him to scout out the front of the Protoss base so he can see the Protoss army movement and know when to throw down sunks, or yeah, when to do his counterattack. But it is a
Hey,
great move to hide units around the map, especially as Zerg, so you can do a surround.
hey, you can see Quad prepping up the bases just like last time with the spore colonies to stop DTs, with lurkers to force detection, slowing down this big gateway push build. So you see if French is moving out, he's gonna have the stuff to defend it if he has enough like stack defense and lurkers. And if he just runs in those two control groups of links, what's gonna stop him? This game looks like it's going to have a very climactic battle soon, and depending on which way it goes, this might actually put Wrench in a false sense of security. If he moves up and sees that one group of links, that might be the "oh, I found your backstab" group, but
Mm-hmm.
not realizing there's another one. And meanwhile, Quad realizing, all right, we're both setting up. That's fine. Taking that fourth base, getting a drone, getting ready to take that fifth base after two. He's already got the lurkers there for the defense, getting in a very safe spot to go into that late game that we saw before. You see that he's got that fast hive. He's doing exactly the same thing, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, Quad is showing us some very interesting ZVP here. He's got his units for the run by or maybe just for a flank. Let's see how he decides to use them. It looks like a bunch of units coming in for his natural though. Let's see if he's able to hold this off with his lurkers that he does have in position. It looks like it's only
Minor
one
thing we're
lurker
seeing
though.
from Wrench. It's a minor thing we're seeing from Wrench, but I love this that he's not forcing his way over the bridges. He's taking the long way over that high ground pod, so he has more room to move the army and doesn't walk into a giant lurker cluster.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Like you were saying, this map is good for Zerg that there is these narrow ramps that are easy to defend against, but the way Wrench moved his army, he kind of circumvented that. So now he's able to move in, he's storming those lurkers, and he's getting his zealots in there on the sunkens now.
Quad's still not doing anything with those pockets of links. If he doesn't do anything with these extra forces on the map he positioned ahead of time, I think this just might be a strong enough push where Wrench is just going to walk up and kill everyone.
Yeah, he definitely needs to bring in some of the units from his other bases to try to reinforce and maybe surround this Protoss army. The Oh, nice storm on that lurker.
Yeah, he's been very proactive with these storms to stop the lurker, even though he doesn't have the observer.
Mm-hmm.
And now that that hydrogen's done, like there's no more hydras being produced. So if he kills out what's on the field, he
Yeah,
doesn't have to worry about this lurker threat anymore.
that's the danger of the Sim City, I guess. Once you lose your natural, you might lose your Hydra Den. And yeah, really no reaction
Say that's
from these. Uh-huh.
if you're saying that's the danger of the Sim City, that's the kind of thing. Maybe instead of the hydrogen in the wall, you put an Evo chamber in the wall because he has an Evo chamber at that third base.
Mm-hmm.
Same idea, just maybe rearranging things a bit. He's going for that Ultraless cavern, which they won't be fully upgraded, but if he gets them on the map, maybe that's going to be enough to buy him some time. But with all these dragoons already made and ready to go with +2 attack, I don't think even the Ultras are going to bail him out of this one.
Yeah, I think he maybe spread himself a little too thin this game. He's got 5 lurkers down at that bottom left base, the natural, but he really could have used them in this battle, seeing how close it came down to. But it looks like he's going to lose his main here and lose this hive again, which is really brutal for the Zerg to try to rebuild all this tech structures that
Yeah.
he's lost now.
Yeah, but I mean, even think back to this push. Even after he killed the natural and all that stuff, you see, like right now, there's just a ton of dragoons, and like Psy Storm is gone. If he had those two groups of lings as a backstab force to surround that, I think he cleans up that attack, and his natural is in a really good spot. Or if he attacked into the main and cut down production or killed pros, maybe said, "Wrench, you need to go back and defend this."
Mm-hmm.
But just having this two groups of units, this high value play waiting to happen, just never happened. It's a heartbreaker.
Yeah, I think he was spread too thin there, and yeah, not using those lings definitely didn't result in the kind of outcome that he wanted here, I think. Losing his main this way and losing his hive now with the Ultraless Cavern in there, which is trying to upgrade. I can only cheese GG. So
No, no, no! Don't say this is cheese. I want this to be a real build. Don't say it's cheese.
that's funny. Answer from Quad, and there's no response from Wrench right now. GG. So it looks like they're calling the game here. Which it was a pretty entertaining game, and it was very close. Like you said, just little things like those Zergling armies being untouched and maybe trying to expand too quickly down here to the bottom left ends up hurting Quad, and he's unable to stop this very heavy gateway play and ground army play from Wrench.
Yeah, even just maybe not reacting properly to the fact that it wasn't a Corsair, that you should be expecting a slightly bigger ground push than you're used to from the normal Forge, Stargate, super standard kind of build. Just knowing, especially if we do a weird build as like, oh, this is going to be good against the meta thing, you need to know the reaction if they do something a little bit weird.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe playing a little differently once you see that no Stargate play could have helped him not sustain those drone losses, or even just building a faster sunken, or trying to drone drill so he didn't let the zealots walk into his main the way they did would have helped him prolong the game and maybe been in a better position there for the mid and late game.
Yeah, I think there's a plenty of little things you could change, but man, just those legs sitting there watching him lose. That's the worst. Like, that could have done so much damage because that was almost two control groups. It was at least 18, maybe 20. Like that would have done so much work against the pile of goons after the Zealots walked up into the main. Clean up all the goons, then the Zealots are locked in the main. You lose one base, but you still have three more. Like,
Yeah, I think being faster to scout out where the Protoss army is moving to and then to react to it, because he also had five lurkers in the bottom left, which kind of did nothing there that game. So if you combine those five lurkers with the two groups of lings, that's a pretty sizable army that could either have counterattacked or kind of cut off reinforcements or even come in with a flank. So that could have made the difference here in this game. But unfortunately, Quad does lose that one to Wrench. So that's actually our last game for today.
yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of very interesting games, a lot of back and forth, a lot of games that easily could have gone a different direction if one play worked out differently, or maybe they didn't forget a little bit of this attack or this one thing. Like we definitely had saw one where the delayed stem timing was a problem, or those
Mm-hmm.
lings in that game, not tackling all the units in the PvPs. Just there's little things that. That's why I like playing this game so much and thinking about it. Just it's never as clear as, oh, we did this, so I should have lost. There's something you could do better, and that's the purpose of this league. Everyone wants just to improve and get better.
Yeah, so hopefully people can see this cast and uh, learn from it or take things away from their play and see what their opponents did and try to learn from that as well. But I think that's it for today. So thank you guys for tuning in and hope you the
And
best of
remember,
luck.
scout the
Scout,
bases,
scout those
scout all the
expansions, man.
bases.
Yeah, that's the main thing we can learn today. Yeah. All right, man. You have a good one.
Yeah, it was fun. Have